What's going on, guys? We are Tottenham TV here with a live stream, a midday live stream. Nice surprise for you guys. I'm here with John. We're going to be talking about midday, 3 o'clock, mid-afternoon, midday for some of us, isn't it, John? We're going to be talking about what is going wrong at the moment at Tottenham Hotspur, because we are 3 wins, I believe, in 12 games out of the FA Cup. Struggling. The only those 3 wins are against Leeds, West Brom, and Sheffield United. It's not exactly the height of Premier League teams, but with a lot of football left to play this season, a lot to fight for. Still 4 points off top 4 with a game in hand. Still in Europa League, and with a League Cup final to come, it could still be a successful season. But we want to analyze at the moment why Spurs are struggling so badly, and is it just a case of Spurs are the victim, like so many other clubs, e.g., like Liverpool, of the circumstance of this season, or is this a symptom of what Mourinho is doing at the moment, the work he's doing?
Yeah, I think it's a multifaceted equation. There's lots of different issues going on. I don't think it can just be reduced down to one thing. I think it's quite a few things, and I think it's quite a lot to talk about, isn't there?
There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot that's going wrong. But there's a few things that can still change, and all is not lost, I would say. Although it can feel like it sometimes. But I want to know from your opinion at the moment. We're sitting in February 15th of February, where we are at the season. How do you analyze our position where we are right now in terms of how the season's going?
Yeah, I think there was a bit of false hope at the beginning part of the season when we were top of the league. I think a lot of fans got giddy. Screwing the tuna, I said we'd win the league. How you doing, mate? There was a little bit of giddiness from a lot of the Spurs fans, and I was trying to tell everyone just to stay grounded. There's a lot of season like to go.
Grounded,
no, we don't. That's the problem with us. We get excited, don't we? I never thought that was gonna last. If I'm being honest with you, there's too many weaknesses in the team, in the squad. We've got half a team of star players, and the rest of the team, I would say, are. You'd be hard pushed to say they were Europa League players, some of them, you know what I mean? So that's an issue as well. I think the board's a problem. I think the fact we haven't been properly invested in, from ENIC for a long time, they don't show that level of ambition. It's just there's a lot of things going on. So this season, and for me, Mourinho, I said this at the beginning of the season. This is what I predicted. I thought there might be little waves, but then things would level out again. And I just don't think that. I think he's being exposed at the moment, Mourinho.
Exposed?
I do. We talked about this before, and I said that I don't think he'd make it as Spurs. But even though I said that, I said I'd support him. I'd shout his name. I'd sing his name. But I just think that he doesn't know. He's experimenting all the time with the team. He doesn't really know. I think he's feeling a little bit lost with the team at the moment, like the way he can't get the back 4 right, and then it's a back 5, and then it's Dyer, and then it's Sanchez, and then it's Alderweireld, then it's Rodon, and then it's, I almost feel as though every time he puts a team out, he's like, it's an experimental team to see what works. I don't think he feels comfortable. I don't know if it's a lack of faith in the players, but there's definitely something not quite right there. And I think the performances are stale. I think there's no fluidity, there's no creativity. The players look like they're playing within themselves. There's no freedom of expression within the team. I feel like the players want to express themselves, but they're kind of being told like you can't do that. You've got to play more of a disciplined role, and I think it's starving the team of its natural footballing ability, I believe.
Okay, so wait. Okay, we'll get on.
There's
to
a lot
Mourinho.
of things there.
There's a lot of Mourinho. No, it's fine. We'll get on to Mourinho in a second. Let's just show the super chat. Loves Music says our current defense shows you can't polish a turd.
You can roll it in glitter though,
and you convince everyone that it's been polished. But okay, so if you're looking at a hierarchy of our problems at the moment, we've got Mourinho, we've got the circumstance of the season, and we've got the board, right? Those are and obviously the players of the world not being good enough. Out of that hierarchy, where would you say from 1 to 4, what's the biggest problem to the easiest solvable problem?
Ultimately, the board's the biggest problem.
So that's number 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then what else do we have?
So you got Mourinho, you're the board,
Mourinho,
the circumstances of the season, and the players.
I would actually see the hierarchy like a hierarchy. So I would say the board, manager, Then we've got circumstances. What do you mean by circumstances?
Like the fact that there's COVID, like everyone's struggling, everyone's losing points left, right, and centre. And no one's really been able to get a consistent run of form.
That's bottom for
There's
me.
injuries. That's bottom for you.
Yeah.
There's a lot of injuries. For example, right, I'll give you an example. Leicester right now, sitting in second. Everyone would agree Leicester having a fantastic season, right? You would agree with that? They're playing very well.
Yeah,
Leicester.
Good.
Yeah, they're second. They're second right now. They're currently on course for 72 points. That's the same as AVB got at Spurs.
Yeah.
Would anyone right now argue that this Leicester team is only as good as AVB Spurs?
Well, if they finish on the same amount of points, then yeah,
you would. So that you would argue.
Well, of course, yeah.
So, but would you say
it's just because the season, all the teams have sort of dropped down, so it makes them look inflated. Their team.
That's my point.
Yeah.
That's our point. So right now, Spurs are in a, like, for example, people say Mourinho's got a worse points per game ratio than AVB, and he's only Ramos has worse points per game.
And Sherwood, apparently.
Yeah, and Sherwood, but that's all in the circumstance of the season, right? Because everyone has a worse points per game than previous, because, as I said, second place is currently on course for 72 points.
Yeah, but that's the same for everyone. So that's a common denominator for all teams, right?
Correct.
So I wouldn't say that's a disadvantage for us specifically.
No, but it's a disadvantage when you're comparing Mourinho to previous managers. That's a disadvantage.
Oh, I see what you're saying
Mourinho.
about that. Okay, so you're looking at it in a historical context, comparing to old managers,
right? No, but I'm saying when people say, "Oh, look how bad Mourinho is doing compared to this and compared to that," but like everyone's doing worse.
No, I'm just comparing it to this season compared to all the other teams. I think that's the way to look at it.
Fine. Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah.
You can do that. But I'm saying when people compare Mourinho to previous managers and say, look how bad he's doing, right? I think that's a bit, there needs to be context to that kind of thing.
Maybe a little bit, yeah. I mean, I think it's a nuanced argument there, but I would look at it on this season and see how he's doing compared to all the other teams. I mean, West Ham are ahead of us.
Correct. They are.
And you wouldn't say that they've got better individual players.
No.
So there is an issue there with Mourinho. He has to take some responsibility. I know there's a lot of Spurs fans get very knee-jerk and get very protective over Mourinho. Look, we're just saying that everyone is accountable here, and it should be open to scrutiny and criticism. That's kind of all I'm saying there, and he is not exempt from that.
Edison Bernardi says for him the hierarchy is circumstances, players, board, then manager.
Cool.
Yeah. But so let's go into board first, because you're saying the board are the number one.
No, because the way I look at it is like, I always use this example, but let's say you have any organization, let's say you have a restaurant, or like McDonald's. It's not really a restaurant, is it? But, let's just say you have a McDonald's, and let's say you have the staff, the burger flippers, like the lowest level echelon of the staff, right? Let's say they're making mistakes all the time.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So it's their mistakes. They're making individual errors, right? But if they continue to make those mistakes, is it their fault that they're still in that job?
Is it, if they're continuing making mistakes, is it their fault that they're still in the job? It's a bit different, no, because you can whose
fault is it? That all the burgers are coming out like undercooked.
Yeah, it's the people above. But what I would say is you don't have a burger guy doesn't sign a contract for the season. You have to play him for that whole season. You can hire and fire within a week. You can't really do that
players as well, though.
Yeah, but when you're dropping players, you're playing you played that player because in training they've showed the most and they should be in the best in training. I'm assuming anyway. That's why they're playing, right? So you're assuming that they're playing because they've shown the most, and anyone who's not playing hasn't shown as much as them, which means you're bringing inferior players most likely if you're dropping that player. So that player who you're bringing in is more likely to make mistakes.
What about if you were given a window to basically get all the staff that you wanted in, and you got to hand pick each one to make sure that they were the perfect burger flipper?
Yeah, you should. Yeah, and you should take responsibility for that, right? For not doing their job.
So then, let's say the manager has to take responsibility if the people that he hires for that position aren't doing their job, and he's taking them, he's training them each day as well, showing them how to flip burgers, and they still can't do it when it comes to the day. You would have to say that is down to the manager.
But maybe you're working at a lower end fast food restaurant, and all the higher end are going to McDonald's, and you're stuck at Burger King, and all the best burger flippers are going to McDonald's, and you're stuck competing for all the middle range to lower burger flippers.
Oh, okay.
It's a problem.
I like how you're twisting the context.
But let's talk about the board, because
I think the board. So, but then
let's talk about the board.
But the board is. But then you go one level higher, and then it's the board, right? So,
okay, but let's talk about the board, because yes, everyone, we can all agree, we have kind of, since that summer we didn't spend. We've definitely been declining, and there's definitely players in the squad who, when they're overplayed, they definitely get exposed. Especially when we have injuries and we have to play, for example, Davis week in week out and things like that, they get exposed when they're playing week in week out, as opposed to when they're coming in every so often when Reguilon's starting. I think it's a much better situation. But if I'm arguing in the Board's defence, last two windows, if you take last two summer transfer windows together, we have the highest net spend in the Premier League, right? Having signed in Ndombele, having signed Lo Celso, Reguilon, Bale, Vinicius, Højbjerg. They would argue they've attempted to refresh the squad, and they've had the highest nets we've had the highest net spend over the last two I believe that's true. Maybe not with City actually, because they spend a lot. But
that's only looking at in the last 2 seasons, though. If you look at it in the last 5 seasons, it's one of the lowest net spends. So it's like you can cherry pick if you like and take out the last 2 seasons, but you've got to, like you were saying, look at it in a more of a historical context. Go back a little bit further and then see, if you look at all the teams in the net spend, we're one of the lowest, especially for a big club. It's like absurdly low, so that is the issue with the Board, is that they're not properly investing. And I think it was the season where we didn't, in my opinion, it was the season where we didn't invest at all. That's when the issue started to come about, not immediately, but it was like planting the seeds of destruction within the team. Because even if you feel as though you have the best starting 11, what you've always got to do is still keep investing and being proactive with your signings. So there's always going to be a slight an evolution of the team and of the squad. When you just leave the 11 go, they're fine, leave them, they're perfect. What happens is they start getting older, the cohesion goes a little bit. Some players get their heads get turned for other clubs. Sometimes there's a little bit of discontent. Suddenly that machine, that well-oiled machine, can start to look a little bit like it's just slowing down a little bit, and it's not looking as powerful as it was before. And now there's no new players to come in and really re-energize it, bring in that, keep people on their toes. And I think that's what happened. We didn't invest for 2. It was the only team in the Premiership to never invested in a whole season. And for a top club, that's not good enough. And I think now we're seeing the effects of that. I really do.
Also, do you think a problem with the way we approach things in terms of a transfer point of view is the fact that when Man City signed someone, for example, they signed Bravo for 20 million, a new goalkeeper replacing Joe Hart. He has an absolutely shocking season, and then they go spend 35 million on Edison. Do you think a problem with us is we when we sign a player for a substantial amount of money, we can't just bin them off straight away because we have to, because the way we financially have the model we can't just keep spending. We have to be very good at, when we spend big money, making sure they're the right player. Because when we spend money, we can't just go and buy another one and replace them and have a 30 million player on the bench every week on big money and then sign another player. We have to use that player within the squad. If we can't sell them, then it causes issues. But when you're looking at other teams like Man City, like Chelsea, they can afford to buy a player for 30 million. And if he doesn't work out, they just either they just put him on the bench, or even if they can't sell him. But for us, we kind of have to sell them first to kind of recoup the money. And if we can't sell them, we can't buy a replacement until that guy goes.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what Levy's model is, but I would say that surely, I know it's he plays a pretty frugal game, doesn't he? But I would still say that you have to have enough to be able to invest in one season, in two transfer windows. You've got to put something in. If you're not putting that in, something's going wrong behind. But
the problem is, right, the big stick that was used to beat Levy previously was, he always sells our best players. We're a selling club. All he does is build up these players and sell them. He had Carrick, he had Berbatov, he had Bale, he had Walker, he had all these players. Modric, great players, and he ended up selling them all money for big money. And everyone used that as a stick to beat Levy. Then we had the Pochettino era, where we had Kane, we had Dele, we had Eriksen, we had Dembele, we had Toby, we had Vertonghen, we had all these great players. And that summer, yes, we didn't sign anyone, but we also didn't sell anyone. We also very easily could have sold people.
Well, no one wanted to go though. No one wanted to leave.
Yeah, but then all of a sudden that became a stick to beat Levy with. He needs to refresh the squad. He needs to freshen players up. Eriksen had to leave sooner. We should have sold Eriksen sooner. We didn't sell him for the right price. Dele, we should have sold him at at the height of his price. So, is there an evolution with Levy in terms of looking at players and instead of selling them, it decided to keep them. And have we been punished for that kind of reflection?
What, for trying to keep hold of players like Eriksen
instead of maybe selling them and refreshing the squad?
Well, I think the problem with Eriksen was that his performances went off the boil, didn't they? He went off the boil, and so he didn't know that, and he wants to keep the best. He still wanted to keep Eriksen, didn't he? Because he still saw something in him. So I didn't really understand the question. I mean,
the question is,
he wanted to keep those players because they were still young. They're still young. They're still young enough, you know.
But I'm saying he changed, right? People used to criticize him for selling one of the best players. Then he with the Pochettino, with all these players, he kept them all. He didn't sell any of them except for Walker, who asked to leave.
Yeah,
which is good. But did we suffer for that in the sense that we maybe because we didn't sell any of them, we didn't have the money?
You can sell other players. You can sell some of the deadwood, you know.
And do you not think he tried?
Well, I would have been looking to move on players like Dyer, Winks. Who else have we got? There's plenty of Davies. I think Sissoko had one good season, didn't he? But he's 32 now, so they're the sort of players that you could be looking to move on. You know, maybe even like Lamella. Probably at the end of this season, you could be looking to maybe move on. The fringe players, the peripheral players, I think he needs to move in.
What do you do when there's no buyer for them?
Well, you got to still put. You got to try, haven't you? You got to put him into the.
I'm sure they're open to offers, Spurs.
Yeah.
But, exactly. But in this, especially right now, in this kind of situation when we're in a pandemic, no one's really spending money like people were spending 20 million on Jeff Schlupp and things like that. Those ridiculous fees, they're not around anymore. People
are we talking about now, or are we talking about the last 5 years? Because I'm really talking about the last 5 years, like pre-pandemic. I'm not talking about the circumstances now so much.
No, I'm talking about fine. If you even pre-pandemic,
let's take out like the pandemic because it's it's a bit
of a weird one. Do you not think they tried to sell a lot of these players? Like,
no, I think he wanted to keep Lamella.
You think he wanted to keep all these players?
Yeah. I don't think there was any reason for him to sell them at that point. But I think that you need to be looking at always refreshing the squad and removing the players that aren't quite at it, and then bringing in like fresh talent, to go again to inject that into the team. I think that's what every good squad does. Ferguson always used to do that. He was ruthless. I mean, he would like sell players that are actually pretty good players, and then bring in like extraordinary players, and that's how he would keep refreshing it. But I think we kind of we rested on our laurels too much, and we had players, and we had good players that were consistently getting into the team, but they weren't great players. And I think to create a title challenging team, you've got to be ruthless in your appointments and in your signings, and you've got to say world class. He's a good player. Okay, let's replace that player with a great player if we can.
Do you think it's
I think that was our issue. I think we had a lot of great players, but then we had a lot of mediocre players
do we hang on too much on sentiment, do you reckon, in terms of these players who've done maybe a good job previously for us, but then when they're for example Ben Davis, like who's done a good job for us previously when he's been a squad player, but then when he's asked to be a first team player, he's never really done it. But he's not a player we want to get rid of because he's a good squad player.
That's the problem with Davis. He's such a he's one of those players who'll never moan. He'll never kick up a stink, will he? He'll always he'll be happy to sit on the bench forever. And when he's called upon, he'll play. I think he just likes the lifestyle of playing for Spurs. So that's why he's a good character to have around, because he's never going to, have a moan up. Is he, Davies? He's just so delighted just to be anywhere close to the first 11, in the squad. So he's happy. But when he comes on, he looks like a fish out of water, and he gets exposed, doesn't he? Like against Man City. But then what do you expect if he's not getting game time? So I mean, so that from that respect, you can see why he's in the picture. But that's why. I mean, you need to be looking at quality backup for all positions, and sometimes I don't think we have that. I really don't. And the fact that when Kane gets injured, who steps in? He gets that annual injury every single season, and then there's no one to fill the boots, is there? And then we have to sort of completely change the formation and change the style of play to cope with it. And then we got Vinicius in, but he doesn't really sort of have that much confidence in Vinicius.
No,
so there's a lot of things that aren't quite right there, and especially if some of the first team players aren't fit, then it's we're having to throw in Sissoko right back, or Davies left back, or just Vinicius is, at times when he's come on, it just doesn't look. I don't know. It just doesn't feel like we've got the right system, the right formula.
What, without Kane, you mean?
Well, I think like we don't really have a plan B, and when our first teamers aren't there, we're having to throw in, Winks, Davies, Dyer, Sissoko right back.
So would you say when we have our first 11, for example, okay, let's just say our first 11, Lloris in goal, Aurier, let's say Toby, Dyer, Reguilon, Højbjerg and Ndombele.
Yeah, we've got a good spine.
With Lo Celso maybe, and let's say Bergwijn, Son, Kane. You think that's a good enough first 11 to compete? But the problem is when we have injuries and we have to use our squad. That's when the problems come.
Yeah, and it's a squad game. I mean, for the first few months of the season, that will be good enough, and it did. We were like top of the league at one point, you know. But then when that starts to get a little bit threadbare and pick up a few knocks, and you're having to replace the first team players, then we start to look a little bit exposed, I think. And there's, you need to have a quality squad, and I don't think we've got that. I think we're a little bit thin on the ground in that respect,
But the board,
they
would say we're looking for a financially stable model. We can't spend billions and billions like Man City or Chelsea or Liverpool can. What would you say? What would you say to that?
Well, how is it West Ham are ahead of us then?
At the moment,
yeah.
Will they finish ahead of us though?
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying, we are not looking in a healthy position at the moment, and
they don't have European football to contend with. It's a season where it's very congested, so a lot of our players are picking up injuries all the time, and they don't have the extra fixtures that we have.
What do you? I'm interested. Let me ask you. What do you think are them? What do you consider that? You gave me the
hierarchy.
The hierarchy. What do you see the hierarchy to be like of issues, of problems?
I would say the boards are number one. I would say
top problem.
Yeah, the board number one. I would say the circumstances of the season number two. I would say the players number three and Mourinho number four.
Yeah, okay.
That's what I would say.
So Mourinho gets an easy path.
Well, you say that. Obviously, he's a lot to blame as well. Let's talk about Mourinho. Okay,
yeah,
so
okay.
Talk about the board.
All right.
Okay,
so how do you think he's done so far? If you had to give it a score out of 10 this season, what would you give Mourinho?
Unfortunately, the horrific run we've been on, you would have to say like a 5 out of 10 at the moment. The way he's managed the situation, the fact he's got us into a final is good. The fact that's pretty much the only positive at the moment because our league form's gone down the drain. We are still in Europa League and we're out of the FA Cup. Still a lot to fight for. Could still turn it around. The fact we've looked so toothless without Harry Kane is a big issue. The fact that he's supposed to have given us a winning mentality. He's supposed to drill that in mentality to score. But our biggest issue has been holding on to leads. That is a big problem. And the fact that sometimes in his press conferences he can give the perception of causing alienation with the team and have because whether it's true or not is another thing. But he makes the perception that there's a bit of that he can be a bit toxic with players. That's a bad thing. However, what I would say is,
what have you seen from him this season?
But what I would say is what you got to remember is where he took over from. He took over from a team that was in decline, who we were under a manager under Pochettino, who everyone loved, everyone was behind, and even then, when everyone was happy with the manager and the atmosphere was pretty good, he can turn the results around. He can turn these defenders who were making mistakes after mistakes after mistakes every week. He couldn't improve them, and he end up losing his job. Yet Mourinho hasn't been able to fix that problem with signings, which he wanted. His number one target in the summer was a centre back, which he didn't get. Or he got Joe Rodon, who's a young centre back from the Championship, but it's not exactly what he wanted. I have seen us in games, I would say majority of games this season, barring, I would say, Everton beginning of the season, Leicester at home, Liverpool at home, and the 2 games we had against. About 5 games this season, I would say we've been absolutely dreadful and didn't deserve a thing. Other than that, I would say we've been very, very competitive in every game. There's been a lot of those games we've had in the palm of our hand. We've had it within our grasp, and either a really stupid mistake from a defender, which Mourinho can't do much about, or a bit of luck has screwed us over in a lot of games. And I have seen, and especially of late, I can see him trying things to change it. I can see him doing some structural things, especially, for example, putting Tonke and Ndombele in central midfield, putting another attacker in, allowing us to have more control in games. I can see him changing things and improving things. But recently, maybe luck and stupid individual errors have gone against us. But for me, I still think he has the players on side. I still think there has been an improvement from when Poch took over. Maybe, obviously, the past few weeks doesn't show that, but I think there has been. And despite the fact that our defenders are making loads and loads of mistakes, right, we're still somehow the 3rd best defense in the league. I don't know how he's managed that in terms of goals conceded. So I think he has the tools to turn it around. I think he's taken Kane onto a new level as well. I think Ndombele's looked like a new player this season. People say he doesn't improve players, but I think he's improved a lot of players. Aurier, I think, is a lot better than he was under Pochettino. I think Kane has taken on a new level than he was past couple of seasons. I think Son as well has taken on a bit of a ruthless streak. I think Ndombele's improved under him. I think Højbjerg is a lot better than he was at Southampton as well. I think a lot of players have improved, but I think our game plan a lot recently has gone down to individual errors, which for me, I know you could say every goal.
That's my argument.
Yeah, you could say every goal comes down to individual error, but there's a difference between a structured mistake, for example, like Gundogan's second goal, where yes, Lloris makes a mistake, but he's got a shot from 7 yards out where no one's ever near one. So I'll go that. But for example, Dyer against Chelsea, Mourinho can't do anything about that mistake, because that's just an inexplicable mistake that he can't do anything about.
That Chelsea game, they were all over us for the whole game. We were chasing shadows since the first minute. I mean, we looked like the away team. We looked like a bottom of the league team against Chelsea at home.
Yeah.
That was the issue, not the fact the individual mistakes, the fact that they were battering us.
You say that, but how many? But they had territorial advantage.
It was like a training exercise for Chelsea.
You say that, but Lloris didn't had barely anything.
Doesn't matter.
To do.
You could see the goal was coming. You could see the goal was coming against Chelsea. They were all over us, mate. But
you could say the goal was coming, but it only came because Dyer decided to foul Werner in the box like he did.
But this is what happens when you allow a team to come onto you that much. It's like wave after wave of attack. You are going to make the defense is going to be vulnerable, and there is going to be an individual error. It's just like when you put something under the cosh that amount, it's going to break, and that was the situation in that game. We didn't have a game plan in that game. We weren't on the front foot. We didn't look like scoring. We were completely limp. We were completely out of ideas, and they got the goal and they got the penalty. And to be honest, it was fully deserved, their goal.
I'm not saying they didn't deserve to win. They deserved to win, and we were not good.
That's my point. It wasn't the individual errors. It's the fact that they deserved to win. Why was that? Why did they deserve to win? That's my point. Why?
Because they were better, and
exactly.
we were.
So it wasn't individual errors; it's because they were better. Why were they better? We're at home, you know. So that's my point. It's just like it's not just individual errors. The fact that we were out of ideas, was no creativity. That we weren't playing on the front foot. There was no passage of play. There was no pressing at any point. We were poor to the second ball. You know, all those things were things that you have to put down to the manager as well. You can't say the manager's exempt from that, because he's the one that trains the team. He's the one that sets up the team. He's the one that motivates the team. So if he's putting a team out like that and they're serving that up, then he has to be culpable, right?
Yeah, he has to take a large portion of the blame.
Yeah,
I completely agree. But you would have to say there's the manager has a plan, and the players have to execute that plan. And if they're not executing the plan, if a lot of the times, for me anyway, we are executing the plan well. Things are maybe not that Chelsea game, but a lot of the times things are actually not going badly in the game. And then one mistake, and the plan goes out the window.
You did actually say it on the last show. You said, we look solid here, but like if that first goal goes in, I can see the heads dropping.
Yeah, and that's
exactly what happened. You know, so that's another thing, is that still has to come down to the manager, right? If you go a goal down and and you can see your team's head drops, right? Then you have to be the one that's instilling the belief within the team, either from the touchlines, either before the game or after the game for the next game. And if that's still happening, the dropping of the heads, that's still the manager's fault, in my opinion. You know, he is still responsible for that. Again, it's like the McDonald's. You know, if you have the staff and they're still, and all the morale's drained out of the team, there's no camaraderie. You know, then the manager takes them on a team building day, doesn't he, to get the vibe back up with the staff. So he is still responsible for that.
But what I would say is, maybe you say Mourinho, right? He does all these things. We weren't on the front foot, all that stuff, and that's true.
Not just front foot, just we were completely drained of ideas and creativity and fluidity. Yeah.
Yeah. But do you think he's playing that way because of the players he has, or do you think that's just the way Mourinho likes to play?
No, because I think Poch was able to play a different way with his team.
Yeah, he was.
And I would also say that I know that we give Poch a hard time for his last few months, but it's the same as Mourinho's form at the moment. You know, the last 12 games for Poch is the same for Mourinho's last 12
I don't bring up Poch's last 12 months to point about how bad Poch is. I bring up Poch's last 12 months to show that. Oh shit, we have to press start on the camera. Sorry, 1 second, guys. Just press start. Should be a start-stop button, right? Yeah.
Tell me if that's coming back on. Yeah.
That should be back on. Hi. Apologies.
Gremlins in the system.
Ad break. No, I'm joking.
It's Mourinho. He's
yeah, Mourinho's trying to stop the stream. Higher powers. Why I always compare to Poch's last bit, because the great thing about Poch and why everyone loved Poch is because he got everyone on side, everyone pulling from the same pitch. Everyone loved Poch. The players love Poch. Everyone's behind Poch. But even he couldn't keep his level of performance up in this final year. Even he had everything going for him except for maybe the board backing him. He had all the players on side. Everyone loved him. There was no toxicity in the fan base. There was no split fan base. Everyone wanted him to stay pretty much by and large. Everyone was a big affinity for Pochettino. And even with that, even with all the players on side, and I don't think the players wanted him out, but even he in those final season, his final year really, couldn't keep his level of performances, couldn't keep his high intensity, couldn't keep all that stuff. And when Mourinho's using a lot of those players, how is he expected to do that when Pochettino couldn't right at the very end? I know Poch could do it at peak Poch, but there's clearly a reason why he couldn't do it later on. And it wasn't all to do with Pochettino himself. It was maybe the players couldn't hack it anymore, those kind of tactics. And we saw against Everton when we did attack, we did play on the front foot, we did create a lot of chances. What happened at the back? We were completely all over the place at the back but it wasn't just a structural all over the place. It was completely giving the ball to Højbjerg and him dribbling it into a play. It was Højbjerg just being like clipping a player like on his heels. All this kind of stuff when there was no protection, when they're playing, you have to use their individual ability. So how does Mourinho combat that? Will combat those defensive errors. And instead of giving them extra protection like he has done by sitting back and making sure when someone makes a mistake, there's another player there to cover.
What's the question here?
The question is, we want to be more proactive. We want to be pressing higher up and stuff like that. And we're criticizing Mourinho.
I thought we're talking about Poch here.
I am comparing to Poch. I'm saying Poch, Poch got sacked, right? Because he couldn't keep up the level of performance he had.
I mean,
with the players, and Mourinho's using a lot of those same players now, a lot of them. So how is Mourinho expected to get to peak Poch levels with the same players when Poch couldn't keep up those levels, when Poch hasn't had that toxicity that everyone's accusing Mourinho of? Everyone was on side with Poch. Everyone loved Poch. No one wanted Poch to go, but he couldn't keep up those levels, right? So how is Mourinho expected to come in and get back to those levels with the same players? Without changing how defensively solid we are.
Well, he can bring in the players that he wants. He had a transfer window, and he is meant to be a serial winner. He is meant to be someone that can outclass any manager, isn't he? He's the one that can, despite the personnel, he's able to win games at any way, isn't he? And he's renowned for being a defensive manager, like to be able to set up a team to be very defensive, right? Now, how is it then a manager that's that set up? So it's one of the best tacticians in the world. Why is it that we've conceded the most points from winning positions this season? With the best manager in the world.
I agree with you.
That for me is that doesn't add up to me. For me, you know what I mean? And I was actually going over some of my comments from when we first appointed Mourinho, and I actually wrote in the comments. I haven't got it here, but I can dig it up for later. I said, even with Mourinho, our defense isn't going to be good. I actually wrote that in a comment.
Yes, fine, but then you're blaming the players, not
so
Mourinho.
I saw that. I could see that was going to happen. No, I could see that he wasn't going to be able to instill what he wanted with the team. I just thought it was going to be an oil and water situation with Mourinho and us.
1 second.
But I did feel as though we might still scrape a trophy, and that still might happen.
That still might happen.
It's going to be difficult against City, but
we got a super chat here from Awkward Alex. He says, "We're playing a style of football where you're going 1-0 up and hold back without a good enough defense to do so. Need some new defenders or a new manager." Yeah,
that's your argument, isn't it? It's just like plug the gap with better defenders.
I think we do need better defenders. I think that's clear especially centre back. We definitely need an increase. But my argument would be is you saw when a lot of the times when we do go 1-0 up, for example, against Everton, we did go 1-0 up and we kept attacking. And then what happened? We were 3-1 down after we got hit with a 5-minute spell. We're 3-1 down. You can blame it on luck and you can blame it on different things, but the protection for the defense wasn't there in that game. I'm not asking. The thing is that I would want him to carry on like that. Because I think I still think
that was the way to play. I think we were a little bit unlucky, and I think Lloris was, has been dreadful the last few games, and I think that's also contributing to the problem. But the main thing for me at the moment, and apart from the odd game where we're showing a little bit of heart, we are drained of spirit. You know, that's the thing. There's two ways of looking at analysing a game. Okay, I don't. This is going to sound a little bit very too intellectual, highbrow. But there's two different ways of looking at a game. There's the left brain way of looking at it and the right brain way of looking at it. Okay, there's an author that I interviewed called Ian McGilchrist. He wrote a book called The Master and His Emissary, and it's about the left brain, which is all about statistics, data, analyzing, breaking everything down into components, right? So it's like looking at a computer screen and, you know, and only seeing the pixels on the screen, whereas the right brain would look at that image and see the picture. It's more of a big picture thinking. It's more about seeing everything as a whole, right? And when I see Spurs, the issue isn't necessarily looking through the left brain as like all the individual components. It's more of a right brain thing of seeing the whole thing, and I can see the whole thing looks stale. It looks drained of life. It's insipid. It's there's a lack of identity. There's a lack of personality. There's a lack of freedom of expression in the team, and that is how would you say, that's expressing itself through the errors that I'm seeing on the pitch. You know, like the individual errors. That comes first for me. The fact that there's no real, you don't really know what you're watching with Spurs at the moment. It almost looks as though they're a little bit lost, a bit frightened. They don't really know each other. They kind of feel a little bit out of place. It's almost like it feels a bit cobbled together each time. It feels a bit experimental. Okay. That for me, that's the issue at the moment. There's a lack of ordere est faire at the moment. To dare is to do. And I know you said before about like we're still creating the most chances in the league.
We were. I don't know if it's true anymore.
But that's the kind of the left brain way of looking at it. The right brain way of saying, yeah, we're creating chances, but I can see that this isn't the Spurs that I know. This isn't a Spurs that looks healthy. It kind of looks, the Spurs at the moment looks a little bit ill. You know, it kind of looks like it's got COVID. Do you know what I mean? It kind of looks as though it's sort of harboring an illness or something. It doesn't really feel like it's in its full flow, does it, when you're watching Spurs? Not flow as in like cavalier football. It just doesn't look like, there isn't like a healthiness to the team when you watch us play at the moment, I don't think.
I would say I would disagree that it's been like a whole season, but I would say of late that's definitely true. And obviously on the back of that 3-0 defeat against Man City, that's going to be magnified because that was really, really an insipid display. But I would say there's a lot of games this season. Well, I don't think that's been the case all the time. I think there has been life, even if it's from a defensive point of view. I think that the players have been fighting. I think there has been a bit of bravery in our play, but it doesn't. I think it's always a bravery kind of intertwined with a lot of pragmatism in a way, if you know what I mean. Like we show bravery, but then as soon as we take the lead, we kind of go within ourselves, and that's a big problem. I mean, whenever we do take a 2-0 lead, usually we see it out because we're not always.
But those against lesser teams, though, aren't they? They're lower league teams.
Yeah, which when we play the higher end teams, there's always a very similar pattern of play. It's a difficult one. I think Mourinho does deserve a lot of warranted criticism for how he's handled a lot of things, but I
and also his substitutions, I think, have been really poor this season. Really, really poor. I mean, we're chasing the game against Everton, and he takes, we're taking off the likes of Ndombele and bringing on Winks. Yeah, but
that was on the 90th minute. That was for extra time, where we know Ndombele and it's he doesn't really last 100. Never going to last 120 minutes.
You know, it's just like some of the substitutes he's made this season. I mean, I can't name them all, but I remember thinking, this is just poor, really, really poor. Like, it doesn't make any sense, to these substitutions that he's doing. I mean,
but the thing is, what I'm saying about Mourinho, he's supposed to. What I'm saying is about Mourinho, right? I agree with what you're saying, but he's using the same set of defenders that we had at the back end of Poch. If anything, Vertonghen's gone out and been replaced with Rodon. That's the only difference. And Reguilon's come in. But whenever Reguilon's in the side, we actually look fine. It's when Davis comes in where we have more problems.
Makes you wonder why he dropped Reguilon against Liverpool at Anfield. Then,
that is true. That is true. We need to go
again. Another silly decision that I think he made. Why drop Reguilon and play Davies at Anfield? It just doesn't make any sense to me. And also dropped like an inform Ndombele as well. But
the fact of the matter is, in terms of that defence, you say he's supposed to be this great defensive manager and stuff like that, but he has actually improved the defence. He has, just factually, because with the third least goals conceded in the league. How does he manage that if not to minimise the mistakes the players are making? And these mistakes that they are making, they are proving costly at the moment, but at least he's minimising them to the third least in the league.
I think a lot of that is correlated with the fact that when you don't score, you tend to not let in goals, if you know what I mean, So if you take a team and they're let's say we were to bang in 4 goals in a game, you can guarantee that we'd let in a couple. Do you know what I mean? That's just the way we're playing at the moment. But if you reverse that, if we play a game and we're looking a little bit stale up front and we're not really putting them in the net, then that will correlate with the fact that we're not letting in many as well. So I think you can't just say that that's just because of great defensive play. Sometimes that's because we're just the game has just lost all its life, and we haven't done anything with the game, on the ball. So that's what I would say to that. It's not just the fact that he's done well defensively. That's often correlated with the fact that the actual performance has been poor and we haven't been on the front foot and looking like scoring,
No, but when he's picking up from a team who were like getting beaten 3-0 by Brighton, they were getting beaten 7-2 by Bayern Munich, right? These defenders were conceding a lot of goals without looking good going forward either at the back end of Pochettino, and he's been tasked to turn that around without signing any new defenders except for Reguilon. He obviously got Reguilon.
Why didn't he make more of a case to get a central defender?
He did.
Why didn't he just say, look, this is number 1 priority then?
I don't know. We don't know behind the scenes. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. We all know he wanted Skriniar. We all know he did, but we didn't stump up the cash for him. We only got a last minute deal for Joe Rodon after the window was closed because he was cheap and he was from a championship side and he had Welsh friends in the Spurs squad. I'm not saying he might turn out to be a good defender, but that's all he got. And I kind of feel for him in that way because Sanchez was making constant errors under Pochettino. Dyer, he's trying to develop him into a centre back. He was more of a centre mid under Pochettino, but he's put him back in centre back, and he's also making a lot of mistakes. Toby Alderweireld, I still think is a good defender, but he kind of physically isn't as good as he was back.
He's slowing down a lot.
He's slowing down a bit.
Down a lot. All right. So what's the main point? What's the kind of the?
It's just discussion. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But we were kind of trying to tie the loop on something there, and I can't remember what we were saying.
We're trying to tie the loop on: is he the right man to take us forward? Can you see him turning it around, or do you think this 3 wins in 12 is more representative of Pochettino than the earlier form? Sorry, more representative of Mourinho, than the earlier form.
Yeah, I do.
You do?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I mean, I predicted this, didn't I, in our debate? I said, I actually thought that he would be sacked within 18 months. And I think that things would go really stale. I think that the Spurs fans would turn on him. And I think that he would be, it would be like, oil and water, trying to turn the Cavaliers into the Roundheads. And a square peg in a round hole. And I just don't think it's going to work.
Do you not think a lot of it is perception with Mourinho rather than reality? Do you think his perception of him precedes him? His reputation.
No, I just think it's just dinosaur football. That's what I honestly think. It's fossil football. I just don't think he's adapted to the modern game. I know we've talked about that before, but I just don't.
Why not? Why can't his no? Why can't his methods work in modern day football? Is Ancelotti a dinosaur? Would you say Ancelotti?
I haven't really made my mind up about him yet.
Would you say he's a dinosaur? Would you say Ancelotti's behind? Would you say Ancelotti's behind the times? He's been managing longer than Mourinho, and he's very pragmatic. Would you say Simeone?
I would say
what about Diego Simeone?
My concern is for Mourinho is that it's very one-dimensional.
Would you say Diego Simeone is a dinosaur? Not dinosaur, but I
don't watch enough of European football. No.
Well, he's also very pragmatic. He's top of La Liga right now.
So I'd have to be watching him week in, week out to see what he's putting out. But for me, Mourinho, it's
Brendan Rodgers. He's very pragmatic. They're sitting second in the league.
But the Leicester players, they seem to play with a little bit more expression.
I watched them against Liverpool. They completely played on the counter attack.
But there's a little bit more
with Jamie Vardy running it behind.
I don't know. There's a little bit more togetherness and a little bit more spiritedness to the way that they play. When you watch us, we look a little bit.
You probably
hungover. Do you know what I mean?
I know, but you probably wouldn't have said that when they lost 2-1 at home to Fulham, though. Like, you know what I mean? We don't look like that in every game, though.
Would you take the Leicester starting 11 or ours?
Starting 11?
Yeah.
Actual starting 11, I think I'll take ours.
So why is it they're ahead of us then?
It's a good question. It's a good question.
Why are they doing so much better than us? That's my point, is that that has to come down to the manager. And it's the fact that Brendan Rodgers is getting more out of the players than Mourinho is, because you just said that we got a better starting 11, yet they're streets ahead of us at the moment.
Yeah, they're 10 points ahead and we have a game in hand.
So there you go.
2 games
That's
in
my
hand.
Point.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is he plays a very similar style of football to us. It's not that different.
It's not the style of football. It's not the formation. It's just.
But you just said it's fossil football.
It's fossil. Yeah.
So it is the style.
It's the way that the players are expressing themselves. We don't look like the handbrake's up with us. You know what I mean? There's a real sense of.
But it's not always.
It has been for most of the season, if I'm being honest. Apart from there's a little wave of performances when we went to the top of the league against Manchester United. When you're watching Spurs, and I'm going to ask this to Spurs fans, when you watch it, does it feel like you're watching Spurs? We're the most boring team in the league, aren't we, at the moment?
Yeah, but you're blaming that solely on Mourinho.
Yeah, most of it.
But was it fine? Was it Pochettino's fault that we didn't look like Spurs at the back end of his career then?
I could still see the Spurs identity within the Poch team, even when it was like tanking, you know. But now it just feels a little bit like I'm not really sure.
7-2 to Bayern Munich. Did you see it?
Yeah, in the first half, that was the best I'd seen us play all season, to be honest with you. And it was Bayern Munich. They did win the Champions League. So
okay, we're losing 3-0 to Brighton.
We're losing 3-0 to Brighton. Yeah, we were tanking. The wheels were falling off at that point. You know what I mean?
But these are very, very similar set of players.
We also drew 2-2 to Arsenal. That looked pretty good in the first half. But we were tanking under Poch, no doubt. But right now, when I'm watching Spurs, it doesn't feel like, I don't know, it just doesn't feel. Do you know what I'm saying? It doesn't feel like you're watching Tottenham anymore.
It depends what it depends what game. Yeah, we're on bad form. But I can pick like we beat Leeds 3-0. I thought we were very good in that game.
I'm not sure what our identity is.
When we beat Sheffield United 3-1, we looked pretty good in that game, like in terms of attacking play, and we were on top and everything. Like when we beat Southampton 5-2, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's a long time ago though.
That was back at the beginning of the season. I know. Most recently, we're on bad form, but you know, Liverpool, they're on worse form than us, and we're on shocking form. They're even worse form than us. Yet people wouldn't accuse Klopp of being the problem.
It is bad form, and we could pick things up again. It's probably going to go in waves, you know. We're probably going to go on a little run as well. I imagine that's probably going to happen. We might go on a little run before the end of the season, but I don't think we're going to finish top 4. Do you? I think we're going to probably finish 5th.
Doesn't look like we're going to finish top 4, but we're still in the race. We're still
I think
there.
we'll put a little mini run together, and I think we'll probably finish 5th. That's my prediction. I actually said that at the beginning of the season. I said we'd finish 5th. But
if we finish 5th and win a trophy,
I would take that.
You take that?
Yeah, I would take right now. I would take that. Yeah.
Or about just 5th and then Europa League? It's pretty good.
5th in Europa League, I would take that.
So
you'd have to take it. Of course, you'd take that.
He could still have a good season, Mourinho.
He could have a good season. Yeah, he could be all right.
But you're backing him not to.
But I just think that, let's be honest, it just doesn't look. It does look a bit stale at the moment, doesn't it?
Yeah, right now. But you could say that about a lot of teams. Everton just lost 2-0 to Fulham, and they lost 2-1 to Newcastle. But they're pretty happy.
Yeah, they're overachieving this season compared to their expectations at the beginning of the season. So they're actually doing a lot better than they thought they were going to do. We're doing worse than we thought we were going to do
right now. But it's so tight, the league. It's so tight. You judge us now when we're in 9th, but a couple of weeks ago we were this place, and maybe in a couple of weeks' time we could be, you know, in the top 4. Like, it's so tight, this league.
I just see I just see that the beliefs just drained from the team. You know, like, I don't know if you remember the Chelsea League Cup when we won on penalties. You know, and the whole sense of camaraderie and belief was in the team. You could see it. They were just like cheering when we won that penalty shootout. You know, it was just like a big, you know, sense of it was a real morale booster, wasn't it? But then when you compare that to now, I'm looking at the players, and maybe it's the fact that Son's looking burnt out, but he looks like he looks really jaded at the moment. I can see within Kane. I can look at him. I know him so well. I can see Kane is feeling like, what is going on here? I don't feel people are believing in the philosophy.
But when we're coming back into Everton, I know we'd end up losing 5-4, but when we come back from 3-1 down and 4-3 down, and we keep coming back and coming back, was that a sign of a team who lacking belief in that game?
I always thought we were the better team in that game, even at 3-1 down, and so that's why I thought we were going to get back into the team, because we were the better team. It was just one of those rare occasions when you're smashing them, but you're 3-1 down. It was a bit like that game.
Yeah, but
so I expected us to get back into it.
You need belief. With the way you're playing.
Funny enough, that Everton game, I actually thought that we showed something that we hadn't. Well, actually, I thought against West Brom we showed a little something, but it's West Brom. But I was actually really, really pleased at the way we were playing against Everton, the spiritedness against them. I know it cost us in the end, but I still thought we showed some heart in that game. And I think this season we've lacked a lot of heart in the games. It's been so pragmatic to the point of draining the kind of the soul out of the team, if you know what I mean. That's the Mourinho way. And I think when you're winning these games 1-0, no one's going to say anything. But when you're not winning these games, suddenly like that's when the the arrows start getting pointed at him.
But do you think Mourinho, it's his plan to get 1-0 and then just hold it and stop attacking completely? Or do you think that the players are not?
I don't think that's his plan.
Or do you think the players, when we do go, because clearly it's very clear to me that the plan is to get the first goal and then sit back a bit, but still have a threat on the counter. But do you think the players within this pragmatic system are not able to be to create chances when we do have a low block, as opposed to that being the plan?
The only time the low block works is when we get the ball quickly through to someone like Kane. He almost drops into a centre midfield position, and then he has the runners on the outside, and then he's able to be like the quarterback. And that's how that system's work, playing from that low block, right? When Kane's not really at the races, or when he gets dragged too far forward, or sometimes he's isolated in the game so much that he actually gets pulled out to the wings. Sometimes he doesn't have much faith in the defense and he gets pulled back into defense, then we lack that pivotal counter-attacking outlet that you're talking about. So then it doesn't work. Then the whole thing collapses at that point. And I think that's what we've seen. We've got the goal up, and we've tried playing this low block, and we don't really have the proper counter-attacking outlets in position, and then it all starts to drop a little bit too deep, and then we go on the back foot, and then we look a bit panicky, it looks a little bit last ditch, and then we let in the goal. And we're trying to do that with half an hour to go. And I just don't think that works for us. If you are going to play a low block, then you have to defend the second ball. You have to be set up for the second ball, not just the first ball. And I think I've seen that's been an issue for me, that we've been defending the first ball but not the second ball. So even things like on set pieces, if you stick, Poch did this at the end of his reign, and I actually screen grabbed this and made comments about this. If you stick all 11 men in your penalty area for a corner, let's say, right? Yes, you're going to be good on the first ball, but what happens? It gets headed out to the edge of the area. There's no counter-attacking outlets there. It just comes back in wave after wave of attack. Actually, Poch was doing that a lot in the last few games, right? So in the same way, you've got to be setting up a team defensively. So when you're defending a corner or a set piece or something like that, you have at least 3 players on the edge of the area, maybe one a little bit further up the field. So when you do get to the second ball and you have like the Sons and the Lo Celsos and the Ndombele's on the edge of the area, you're able to take the pressure off the team by creating that attack. But unfortunately, what I've seen happen is everything's dropped back. It's collapsed into its own 18-yard box. So there isn't a counter-attacking outlet. Even Kane's dropped back into his own penalty area. So now you've lost that quarterback outlet to take the ball forward. Do you see what I mean? To relieve the pressure off the team. That's what's been going on. That's what's been going wrong for us this season.
And okay, so interesting. I mean.
So what I'm saying is the low block only works if you maintain your counter-attacking outlets, like Leicester used to do in that season that they won. They'd find a way to get the ball to Vardy. Yeah. What happens to us is that the team are so desperate to hang on to that 1-0 lead that even the attackers and the forwards think, I better get into my own penalty area and defend this to help out the team. But what that does indirectly is actually negatively impacts the team, because it takes away the counter-attacking outlet. You could even see where we've done this really well. If you look at the 5-1 against Arsenal in the League Cup, credit to Juande Ramos, he actually set us up in a way to hit them on where we had, if you think about all the goals, they're all counter-attacking goals mainly against Arsenal, right? That was the perfect way to set up with a defensive play, but have the counter-attacking outlets. The reasons why we've given up so many leads from defensive position isn't just the individual mistakes for me. It's the fact that we haven't defended the second ball well enough. We haven't set up their counter-attacks. Outlets. We haven't had those outlets in place, and that for me is where that's a lot of the reason why we've given up a lot of points from winning positions this season.
Got a super chat here from Minthu Lee, says Jose getting called out is because of people's perception of him based on previous reputation. He is just as at fault or even less for the current situation as the individual players. Well, let's talk about.
You said, wasn't it? Yeah.
Let's talk about these individual mistakes, and you can talk about Mourinho can be to blame for them. But when, for example, when we're playing Leicester at home, Aurier barges into the back of Fofana, right? It's 0-0. It's a very close game. Leicester clearly a very good team, especially when they have a lead. And when we give them a lead like that, what can Mourinho do about that? When Aurier gives away a silly penalty, which is pretty nonsense. Crystal Palace, we're winning 1-0. We've missed a host of chances. late in the game, they get a set piece. Rory fumbles it, and it's a goal. What can Mourinho do about that?
The thing is, it's like we've spoken about this before. A few weeks ago, I was saying that we have a lot of clumsy players. I don't know if you remember this. I said
and that's clearly true.
Sanchez, Dyer, Aurier. They're clumsy players, right? So even Mourinho in the documentary, he said, "I can see you giving a penalty away to Aurier." Do you remember that? And he looked a little bit like sheepish.
He said, "I'm scared of VAR because of you." Yeah.
So he knows that about Aurier,
but
right?
He has no other option to play him.
But what do you do on the training ground then with Aurier? What would you do if you know that he's going to give away those silly penalties? You make sure that in that position that he doesn't rush in, he stands him up.
Yeah.
You keep drilling that into him. Even if you have to stay there with him for 8 hours, you keep him on the training ground. You get the attacker in that position, and you make sure that he shepherds him into a cul-de-sac every time. Shepherd him in, get goal side, shepherd him away from goal. Don't do a clumsy tackle, a rash tackle. You'd be drilling him on that, wouldn't you? If you know that he's
How do you know he's not?
If you know
he's not?
Well, okay. Well, do we know that?
We don't know. We don't know if he's not. We don't know if he is. But we all know that Aurier has the tendency to do something brainless during the game.
So then you've got to make sure that you've got to be working. If you are going to play him, you've got to be making sure that you drill into him to not do that. Surely you would do that.
No? Yeah, I would hope so.
You'd hope so. Yeah, you'd hope so. So, so that would be my argument. It's like, yes, it's an individual error, but you know that Aurier is going to bring that. You know Aurier is clumsy. So then you try and declumsify him on the training ground. You show him tactically what to do in those situations. Don't go rushing in. Just get your body in the way and shepherd him out to the touch to the byline.
Yeah, but they have to do it. You know, he can show them, but they have to do it. And if they,
I can't actually remember that foul exactly. What happened in that Leicester game?
The cross. It was a free kick.
Yeah.
From like literally the halfway line, they lump it into the box.
Yeah.
It bounces. It was Fofana and Aurier both challenging the ball literally on the corner of the penalty area. Fofana,
it was going nowhere. Remember that?
Absolutely nowhere. Yeah, exactly. Fofana gets it on his chest, and then Aurier literally just barges into the back of it for no reason.
It was going nowhere.
Going absolutely nowhere.
Like they should know to not do that when it's going nowhere. There's no risk.
Do you think? But do you think Mourinho's saying go for the ball there? You know what I mean? Of course, he wouldn't. He would want Aurier to use some sense. And is it his fault that when he does something brainless like that, is that on Mourinho?
I don't think it's his fault when he does it the first time. But I think if he does it a second time, I think Mourinho's got to be responsible as well, because he has to be the one to train him out of that.
When we're playing Fulham at home, right? We're 1-0 up. We missed a host chance. Areola has an amazing game. Areola, the Fulham keeper.
Oh, sorry, I thought you said Aurier.
No, Areola, the Fulham keeper, has save after save. Right, unbelievable. We don't make our chances pay. We only have the 1-0 lead because we missed chances, not because we sat back. And then Dyer has one man to mark in the box. Right, he's got a 5'8" centre back, a 5'8" forward in Caviera to mark in the box. The cross comes in. He has one. He loses that one man, and it headed in. We end up drawing the game. Is that Mourinho's fault?
Actually, do you know what you've made? Because as soon as you mentioned Dyer, it made me think. Yeah, it's
is that his fault?
Yeah, no. Actually, you've got a good point there, because I've also said that Dyer, no matter what you do, he's never going to be a top defender. So.
Can you blame Mourinho for that when we're 3-0 up against West Ham and we concede 3 goals in 8 minutes? You're right.
Actually, no, you're right. Maybe some of these players you can't declumsify them.
Like we're trying to.
Yeah.
When we're 1-0 up against Newcastle and Darlow makes 10 saves and then Dyer makes a stupid handball in the last minute, what can Mourinho do about that? Like, is that on Mourinho?
Yeah, we've got too many clumsy players, basically. Yeah, I mean, there's certain things that you can drill into the players, such as when it's in a low risk area, don't go to ground. Or when Dyer brought down the penalty recently. Who was it against? The one we did.
Chelsea.
Was it Chelsea? Yeah.
The one when he's lying on the
no
ground.
No need to go down to ground. But something like that, you can actually train that. What's Ledley King doing? That's what I want to know as well. This is maybe a separate thing. It's like, what's Ledley King doing with the training of our defenders at the moment?
I don't know. I mean,
what's the influence there?
Jay Taylor says it's not Jose's fault. He knows we are bad in defence. They aren't good enough. 10 players are from the old Poch team who make too many individual mistakes.
Yeah. Too many clumsy players. I mean, do you want to go through some of the players as well and talk about who would you keep and who would you move on?
I would. I know Lloris is having a bad time for it at the moment, but I don't think he's the least of our worries for me at the moment. Aurier, I actually think is a good right back, but he's too clumsy and needs to be upgraded. Dyer needs to be upgraded. Sanchez needs to go. I think he's been way too long now. I think he just keeps making. I can't
Sanchez.
remember. Oh. Sorry, guys. Blackout.
Yeah, carry on.
Sanchez.
You think Sanchez should go?
I can't remember the last time he played a game without making a mistake. I can't remember. He hasn't improved since we signed him. No, he hasn't. That's the problem. I keep saying this. I know he has a good. He's quite. I think Sanchez is very good at making last-ditch blocks. He's very good in one-on-one defending usually, and he's quite good at mopping up for other people's mistakes. But he's very bad for some reason. Challenging in the air. He's absolutely no composure on the ball. He's got zero composure on the ball, which is really annoying. He seems to shit himself whenever he has to play possession. And he always has a mistake in him. He always has a loss of concentration, and he gets caught ball watching way too often. Yeah, that's my frustration with him. And he's a £42 million centre back. And I know he came in as a young player who
you'd have to say he's a flop player. For the amount of money we paid. For sure. All right. So who else? So Davies. It's one of those ways.
I like David. I actually don't think Davies is bad, but he's not. You can't have him in your squad when he's playing week in, week out. You just can't, especially left back. He's good when you come in for one or two. When he's coming in once every month, basically, and he's like 100%. But when he's playing at 70%, he's awful. He's just terrible. Yeah. Sissoko, he has a role to play in the squad, but I think he needs to be upgraded. I really do.
He's 32 now, so
he's 32. He doesn't have as much energy maybe as he did.
Yeah.
Harry Winks.
Here we go.
I actually think Winks is a good player, but
I think he's all right for the squad. I've said that at the beginning. Yeah,
I think he's all right
because he'll look good against Wycombe Wanderers, and he'll play against like FA Cup, and he'll look like the best player. And
he's very clearly a confidence player, Harry Winks. Very clearly a confidence player. He needs to be playing on high confidence, willing to take the ball, willing to take people on. And if not, when he plays within himself, that's when the big problem starts. But
he never takes a player on. He very rarely takes a player on.
When he's confident,
when he does though, he looks a really good player. But he doesn't do that enough. He just keeps it safe too much. But anyway, we could talk about Winks all day.
He's on borrowed time, Harry Winks.
Yeah.
Dele Alli, he's frustrating me.
Would you move on, Dele?
I would at this point. Yeah. I think it's been 3 years now.
Since the last good performance.
Since he was consistently putting in good performance. His only purple patch was actually under Jose. So in the last 3 years, when Jose came in, he got him playing for a bit, but then he went back to his bad form, and it's almost like he keeps giving him chances, and he gave him encouragement. He had an upturn, and then he went down again. He just can't keep his consistency, and I would look to move him on. Honestly, at this point, I think he's such a talented player, but he's a wasted squad member at the moment. I think Lucas Moura, I'd consider moving him on. Lamela. I like him, but I think he just spends too much of the season injured. He's a wasted squad member. When he's fit, I actually think he contributes, but unfortunately, he's not fit enough. So
it's a shame with Lamela because he just hasn't stepped it up at all since we bought him. He's looked exactly the same.
Since we've bought him, he's had 2 seasons where he's made double figures in starts. 2.
You're joking. Man, he's stolen the career, isn't he? That boy.
Those 2 seasons are his second season.
He might just love North London.
It was his second season under Poch.
Yeah.
His first season under Poch was one of them, and then it was last season.
Yeah, and I'm worried that's going to happen with Lo Celso as well. Unfortunately, what is it with these Argentinians?
I think people are going overboard with Lo Celso.
They're
I know he's
put
had
together with chewing gum and spit, aren't they?
So those are a lot. I think loads of players.
So that's half. We're talking half the squad are going.
I know,
right?
I know. But the thing is, they're okay when they're just squad players. But at the moment, we're using them a lot. We're using them as first teamers because Lo Celso's injured and Reguilon's injured, and obviously Sanchez and Dyer have to play and whatnot. But
it's funny though because at the beginning of the season, myself included, I said this is a good squad we've got. This is one of the best squads we've ever had.
It's good when everyone's fit.
It's one of the best squads we've ever had.
It is good when everyone's fit.
Yeah, but it's amazing how you start to look at the squad differently when the performances are tanking as well.
Yeah,
that's the thing as well. You have a new perspective on the squad. Yeah.
I've got a super chat here from Scott Young. Said we won't win anything with Jose. We're going backwards. The players don't look interested, but we have paid him so much. We now can't afford to sack him.
Who was that?
Scott Young.
Scott, I agree with that.
I don't agree with that at all.
I guess that's our That's the sort of the different perspectives that me and Sim have got. I'm more that way of looking at it. Sim's more what's your kind of main point there? It's more the players.
I think it's more the players. I think these are players that struggled at the back end of Poch, and we're overusing them now. I think we had in Poch's last season, we were bottom half for goals conceded, probably. But when he took over, and we were making a lot of mistakes. Now we're making mistakes, but he's minimizing the mistakes to an extent where we've conceded the least amount of goals, third least amount of goals in the league. We're all fourth, I think. I think it's fourth least amount of goals, which is kind of a credit to him. But on the flip side, we have lost a bit going forward, which obviously under Pochettino was one of our main assets. But I think we are, in the last few games anyway, I think we're starting to set up the team in a way which is going to allow us to create more chances. I'm hoping anyway. I think we saw evidence in the Everton game that he's trying to create a solution to that problem.
Let's say he got the centre backs in that he wanted, and we finished 5th next season. What would you what would you say to that?
If we finished 5th next season,
if he got 2 centre backs in that he wanted, and we finished 5th or 6th, what would you say about Mourinho then?
If we spent big on a centre back,
let's just say he gets in the centre backs that he wants,
and then he has to be accountable for that. But I just don't like the narrative. For example, like when Pep was underachieving, because he had defenders that constantly making mistakes. He had Clichy and Sagna and Otamendi and Bravo in goal. He the next season he got a whole load of new defenders for 150, 200 million, whatever he spent on them, and that solved the problem. It clearly showed that Pep wasn't the only issue with the defense. It was the defenders making mistakes. Klopp had the same problem. He had Lovren constantly screwing up. He had Karius constantly screwing up. He had Moreno, that left back, who was rubbish, constantly screwing up. He was allowed to spend a lot of replace them, got the defenders he wanted, and that solved. We've got Van Dijk for 75 million, and it solved the problem for him. Spurs at the moment,
but Dyer is meant to be an international.
Yeah, but he doesn't even do well for England.
No, he doesn't.
No, he doesn't even for England.
And that's the thing. And Mourinho likes him though. That's the thing. He's the one that reinstated his position in defence. Remember?
Is that more out of necessity than
but he's the one that had the belief in him to put him in.
He has to put trust in someone, doesn't he?
Why not play Toby more this season? I thought he's been brilliant when he's played. Admittedly, he has a few games where he looks a little bit slow, but generally I think he's a swan. Toby,
I agree with you actually,
so why is it Mourinho hasn't been utilising Toby as much this season? He's clearly our best central defender, clearly,
because he doesn't use Toby as much because Toby lacks that physicality in terms of when if he wants to push higher up. Toby's more likely to get caught out on the counter-attack than, say, Sanchez or Dyer. Well, what Sanchez and Dyer are more likely to do is make clumsy mistakes. That's what Toby's not going to make mistakes like that. But what he will do is get caught out physically.
Can you think of a goal he's been caught out on the break?
Yeah, Everton. When Richarlison scored that goal on the edge of the area, Toby has to get much closer to him.
No, but that wasn't on a breakaway.
That was.
I thought you meant on a counter-attack.
Yeah, on a counter-attack. So that was on a counter-attack. They kind of got the ball.
I thought you're saying that when we're pushing forward and he's like the last.
Yeah, against Everton as well. First day of the season, Richarlison completely outruns Toby and rounds the keeper, misses the open goal. I remember that very clearly. But that was the moment he was caught out.
I think Toby is solid.
No, I agree with you. I would want Toby with a fast centre back.
It does sturdy the ship when we play him, and I just think when he drops him, and
we did see 5 goals against Everton when he started.
Yeah, but I still think that you can't just put that down to Toby though. But I think that if we're going to blame the defence, why not play our best centre back? I mean, he's dropped him, for most of the games, hasn't he?
He has dropped him, but he dropped him. It was for a reason he dropped him. It was after that Leicester game he dropped him when he scored an own goal. Again, that was another time he was caught out on the counter attack. Toby, clearly, we had Toby and Dyer, and it was going well for a bit. Right, we were keeping clean sheets. We had Toby and Dyer when we played against Man City. We won 2-0. When we played against Arsenal, we won 2-0. When we were winning games, we had that streak where we beat West Brom, we beat Burnley with a clean sheet. That was Toby and Dyer. But all the problem was, which you identified, we were sitting too deep, way too deep. We're inviting too much pressure, and it came to blows against Palace, against Liverpool, against Wolves when we conceded another goal. And he tried to change it. He tried to put in Sanchez so we could push the team up a bit more, so we weren't sitting too deep. But then what happened was we kept making clumsy mistakes. Sanchez and Dyer kept making clumsy mistakes. It was costing us points. Like against Fulham, we were creating chances like we did in that game, but at the back, Dyer like loses a man, for example, when he's got one man to mark. So he's people accuse him of changing the centre back pairing too much, and it's causing mistakes. But I'd argue he's changing it because they're making mistakes.
Yeah, but again, it's a difficult one, because if they keep losing their place every time they make a mistake, then they're going to play. They're going to not have much confidence when they're playing either. So it's a double-edged sword, isn't it?
Yeah, but you say that
if there's no consistency with the back line.
But you say that we beat Arsenal beat Spurs 2-0, right, to go top of the league back in December. Playing
Spurs beat Arsenal.
Spurs beat Arsenal 2-0.
I thought
sorry. Spurs beat Arsenal 2-0. The next game we played Crystal Palace, right? We drew 1-1 because we had made a mistake late, set piece. We were forced too far back in that second half, right? Because
that was the issue in that game, yeah.
And then we conceded a set piece.
You could see it coming. Yeah.
Right? Next game, played Liverpool. We were forced. This
is the left brain way of looking at it.
Yeah, but again, we were forced too far back, right? Yeah. Again, and we were conceded from a set piece right at the end because Dyer falls over in the last minute, and we conceded the last minute goal to Liverpool. Then next game we play Leicester. Again, it's a close game. Aurier makes a stupid challenge for a penalty, and Toby scores an own goal. And then after
they were
that
still the
game,
better team, I think.
They were the better team, but it was still a very even game. Anyway, then after that game, he decided to change centre-back pairings. That's 3 games in a row he gave it before started changing.
Yeah, and then he's gone to a back 5, then a back 4.
But you're saying he's changing it after 1 game, but he wasn't. He waited 3. He waited 3 games there, 1, 2, 3 before changing it, and then he said, "All right, clearly there's something wrong. They keep making mistakes. I'm going to change it." Then he brought Sanchez in against Wolves. And it was fairly similar, but what I'm saying is he's not just changing it after 1 game. He gave it a go for 3 games after 3 games that mistakes cost us.
You never know what back line he's going to put in for the next game, do you?
But what I'm saying is,
what would you say? Let's say the next game. What do you think he's going to do?
It's a good question.
You don't know.
I don't know. No, I don't know, and I'm not surprised.
There is a for any, let's say, a defense to perform well week in, week out, there's got to be some kind of consistency there, hasn't there? There's got to be some kind of knowing of a formula, and when it's being constantly experimentally changed all the time, that's not going to breed confidence, is it? It's not going to breed a kind of consistency.
But it was 3 games in a row. Is he supposed to keep keeping
every
it?
game? Every game
though?
There's something different in the back line. Every game.
Yeah, but only since he started. Yeah, only since he started changing it because they were making mistakes. He changed. It was going well. Then 3 games in a row, the backline was making mistakes. So then he changed it. Is that wrong?
Hang on. So what games are we talking about? Where things weren't going. Things were going well, because we're still letting in goals, weren't we?
No. Things were going well. We just beat Arsenal 2-0, right, to go top of the league. Things are going very well. On the back of we just played 3 games in a row. Played City, Chelsea, and Arsenal. Right, 2 wins and a draw. No goals conceded. Going very well. Then we played Palace. Right, where the problem was we had loads of chances, by the way, in that game. Guy had an unbelievable game. Yeah, remember that?
Go back before the Arsenal game.
Yeah, Chelsea 0-0, Man City 2-0, West Brom 1-0. Brighton 2-1, but they only scored even though that goal should have been disallowed. Burnley 1-0. And that was changed before that was Spurs 3-3, right? So clearly we shifted from then to a more pragmatic approach after that game.
And he took the West Ham game, he took out Sanchez after that, didn't he?
He did, who scored an own goal.
Yeah, he took him out straight after that from the own goal.
Yeah, but then it worked. Then we went on a run, very good defending, right? Playing really well. And then after the Arsenal game, we played Palace, where we were forced to. The problem was we were creating chances, but after going 1 level, we were forced too far back, penned in. We couldn't get out, and we ended up succumbing to the pressure after a mistake from the back line. Then we played Liverpool, right?
So you think it's completely justified, all the swaps and the switches? You don't think it's excessive, and it's too experimental?
I would say. What? It is a bit experimental.
My thing is, I still don't think he knows. I still don't think he knows what his favourite back line is.
He had a settled 2 in Toby and Dyer, and then 3 games in a row, they were making mistakes. 3 games, right? And then he changed it. So that wasn't experimental. But since then, it has been a bit chop and change, which is a problem. But
and how the defender's meant to have confidence when they're constantly, they're in and out of the team. like a bag of sweets, as someone said. More changes than a bag of sweets. I think Josh said that. You know what I mean? It's like how can you create something with a bit of consistency?
But they need to show something. They need to show that they're capable of not making mistakes. They're keeping concentration. What's he supposed to do?
But the relationships, the dynamics are changing every time you play a new 90 minutes. You've got a new partner to build a chemistry with.
Yeah.
So that's going to be difficult, isn't it? Imagine having a different dance partner each week and expecting to put in. You know what I mean? There has to be some kind of chemistry being built up to create consistency. When you're chopping and changing that much, how can you expect them
but every week they're making mistakes. So what are you supposed to just?
So every time there's a mistake, you get
But he
sidelined.
waited 3 games. Was my point.
Every game there's a new swap. There's
now
a new
there
central
is
defender.
since then.
Yeah. So
because
why
every
is that?
time he puts in a defender, they make another mistake.
Yeah, and what I'm saying is you can't just like kick a defender out just because there's a mistake. You've got to let them have. You got to let them work through it. That's my argument.
But what if they keep making mistakes though? What do you do? Just leave them in to the end of the season. There has to be a point where you go, okay, change it.
Depends what the mistake is. I mean, it's a complex formula. It's a complex equation. But the defense also might be down to the what's in front of the defense as well.
Yeah, it is true.
So there's a lot more to it as well. There's a lot more to it than just the defenders. You defend as a team, and if the team aren't defending well, then the actual defenders get exposed. But actually, down to the team how they defend as a unit and how they compress up onto to the ball.
That was a big problem under Pochettino, where I thought a lot of defenders, a lot of the time, were made to look worse than they are because of the lack of protection. Now they have protection, but they're still making mistakes, just not as many as they were under Pochettino, but it's still costing us. That's the problem. But there's only so much Mourinho can do, I feel, a lot of the time. A lot of these games, like so many of these games.
Should we ask the audience? I mean, what do you guys think? What do you put the issue down to at the moment? The fact that we're, what's going wrong? Effectively, what the name of the video, like what's going wrong at Spurs? What do you think it is? I'm really interested to know what people's opinions are on that. You can just put Mourinho if you want, or if you want to just like put a little sentence together.
For me, there's.
I think it's a multitude of issues, but
2, 3 for me. What was it? 4, 5. I would say there's 5 games there I can point to, which we've dropped points.
You're going to say individual errors, aren't you?
No, but without which isn't the fault of Mourinho. That's fine. I would say I can point to 5 games. I would say the Newcastle game, where we should have completely put that to bed, and they called the last-minute penalty because of the stupid handball in the last minute. There was a 3-3 against West Ham. I don't think that was Mourinho's fault, conceding 3 goals in the last 8 minutes or whatnot. I think that was. I don't think that was Mourinho's fault in that one. I think the players have to take responsibility for that.
But this is the thing, right? So I actually said this on my fan show. Would you say that the Man City game where we won 2-0 was a Jose masterclass?
Yeah.
All right. So why is it when we win a game through individual brilliance, that's a Jose masterclass?
Yep.
When we lose a game because of individual errors, that's not Mourinho's fault. You can't have it both ways.
Because we didn't win that game due to individual brilliance. We won that game because we set up in a way to restrict.
They scored the goals.
Huh?
They scored the goals.
Yeah, but we set up how many did we concede? How many did we concede?
Look at the Arsenal game.
How many did we concede?
It doesn't matter. They still scored 2.
How many did we concede?
Look at the Arsenal game.
How many did we concede?
Neil, you look at this is the left brain way of looking.
But I'm asking you, how many did we concede?
Neil, but
that's down to Mourinho.
They were all over us that game. They were battering us that whole game. Let's be honest. We got lucky. We got lucky in that game, in my opinion.
How many saves did Mourinho?
There was actually a handball in that game by Sissoko, and never got picked up. I actually think in that game against City, we're at home, even though we won 2-0.
Yeah.
It was wave after wave in that game. Let's be honest. Okay, we held out. It was like a good last-ditch performance. We got the ball to Kane, and Kane was the one that did the damage in that game, right? But my point is let's say the Arsenal game where we won 2-0, right?
Yeah.
It was individual brilliance that won that game. It was a Son's individual brilliance that won that game. Let's say got the goal up, right? And then it was Son and Kane's individual brilliance with the chemistry that got the second goal, right? Now, why is that a Jose masterclass?
Because that's how we set up.
Individual brilliance was a Jose masterclass. Individual mistakes, not Mourinho's fault. You can't have it both ways. That's hypocritical.
No.
Either Mourinho's responsible for all the victories and all the defeats, or neither. You
no,
can't.
no.
You can't
Mourinho
say
was responsible for how we set up and how we defend, right? And how we set up for a game. If he sets up in a way where we don't look like conceding, and then he gets it to the forward players who we know have enough quality to cause damage on the counter attack, that was his plan in that game, right? And it played to perfection because we, in my opinion, both those games we didn't look like conceding, even though they had shots and whatnot, and you can argue they had chances. For me, Lloris, I don't think made any saves of note in either game, and we knew if we could get the ball to Kane and Son, and even Lo Celso scored it against Man City in dangerous positions far up the pitch when there's a lot of space because Man City are coming onto us. That is a very clear tactic, but that is a very clear tactic for us to go forward and when it worked. When it gets to individual mistakes, when for example against Fulham, right? I'm going to point to the Fulham game where we've created loads of chances. We haven't put them to bed. Where Areola in the Fulham goal has a lot of makes a lot of saves. Fulham had barely any chance, although they might have had territory possession. They didn't really test Spurs at all in terms of Lloris wasn't troubled. They didn't really have that many chances yet. A ball comes in the box. We have two defenders in there. They have one 5'8" striker, and it's somehow Dyer is unable to mark him, right? And he heads it home. That is not a failure of the system. That's a failure of the individual to carry out the plan. In that instance.
Yeah, I just don't think Mourinho is completely exempt from
blame. If we're playing
you know,
awful and we're conceding loads of chances and we're getting lucky because they're hitting the post and they're hitting the bar and we're having shots clear off the line, and then out of nowhere Kane hits a shot from the halfway line and we win the game 1-0, then I could say, yeah, that wasn't Mourinho didn't really do anything.
But there's a lot of fans that would say that was a Jose masterclass. That's the thing, right?
I'll disagree. For example, right?
You do get fans to say that.
For example, when we beat City 2-0 last season, when Bergwijn scored
they
his
were all
debut,
over us.
That was not a Jose Mourinho. That
so
was lucky.
Yeah, but there's a lot of fans.
That was lucky.
But you'd be surprised how many people saw that as a Jose masterclass.
Yeah, that was a bit of banter in my opinion.
Even on ESPN and all these, they were saying that was a Jose masterclass.
I don't care what ESPN are the worst.
You know, unfortunately, this is what happens if you win a game 2-0, right? People forget about the actual performance. They see the scoreline and they just go, Jose masterclass. We scored 2 and we didn't let any, right?
No, but
people look at it like that.
I look at the game.
People don't go into the nuance of the game. They just see that as a snapshot and they go, that's it. We were awesome. You know, even against Arsenal, in my opinion, they were all over us even at home, right? I thought we were on the back foot for that whole game. And I think we sucker punched them with the 2 goals. That's my opinion.
That was the plan.
But because it was 2-0, people go, Jose masterclass.
No, but
I actually don't. That's what I'm saying. It's like
no, but you're confusing possession with domination.
No, not possession.
Yes, you're confusing. You are.
You can look at a game and say, who is the better team here?
And clearly you believe the team who has more possession is a better team.
And I just think
what you believe.
If a team wins 2-0, it's very difficult to then turn around and say they were the worst team because they won 2-0.
No, I disagree.
But there are going to be instances when you even win 2-0 and you're the worst team. That I agree,
just like when we beat City last year.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, like that game.
Yeah,
exactly.
But this year was different.
I still think they were much the better team.
They won.
I still think
they won. We had
a formula where we were just
getting it.
We were just getting it through to Kane, and Kane was in that quarterback position. He was the one that was holding up the ball.
That was the plan, though.
But they were all over us. Let's be honest.
They had possession.
It was wave after wave of attack in that game.
You're confusing possession with control.
No, I'm not.
You are.
You can tell when a team's better than you when you watch it.
Yeah.
Not just possession-wise. You can tell when even when we played against Palace and we were 1-0 up, you could see that they looked like the better team, and you could see they were going to score. We even said that. I said they look like they're going to score now
because we retreated too far deep.
Yeah, so
and they were creating chances.
Yeah, so it's not just about
they
control,
were creating
possession.
Chances though. That's the difference.
No, even before the chances, we could smell the goal coming. We even said it on the stream. We said they look like they're going to score here, not even without the chances. So you can. What I'm trying to say is you can see when a team's playing better than you. You can see, and it's not just because of chances. You can actually see when a team's on top.
I agree. You can, and in the Arsenal and that Man City game,
and I thought we sucker punched Arsenal in that game. If I'm being honest, and I actually think that I thought they played all right in that game. And I think there's plenty of times.
They didn't create any chances.
No, they did.
They did. Even when you have to rewatch the game. You have to rewatch the game.
Toby got a last-minute sliding tackle on Aubameyang. That's a big chance. Even before the Son chance, Aurier just gets in a last-minute interception, and about I think it was Aubameyang was clean through on goal. If you watch the AFTV, they're come on. It was a huge chance, massive chance, but because he gets in that last second interception, you don't talk about it. Do you see what I'm saying? These were massive chances during the game, but because they don't get the shot off on target, you say, oh, it wasn't a chance. They were massive chances. So that's what I'm saying. We were still leaky. We were still conceding.
Fine, but fine. On that same token, against Man City, I remember.
Even Dyer in the last 5 minutes, Lacazette has a header. Dyer doesn't track the flight of the ball, and Lacazette heads it over the ball in exactly the same position where Fulham scored from. Exactly the same. Another huge chance. See, because they don't hit the target, you don't register them as big chances. They were massive chances. We just got lucky in that game, and we were able to sucker punch them in that game.
No, I disagree. I think we restricted both teams to very, very minimal opportunities.
Not in my opinion.
Very minimal.
And anyway,
and it was part of the plan to sit back, soak up the pressure, knowing that Arsenal at that time were going for a really rough time in terms of going forward. They weren't really creative and they weren't scoring goals. I think they had gone like 3 games without scoring or something. So we knew they were lacking.
And we could see what happened after that, because we weren't able to get we weren't able to ride our luck for the next few games, and we conceded like late on in a lot of those games.
Caught onto it. So we had to change the plan.
Subsequently from that, we weren't able to ride our luck as well.
Correct.
Yeah, that's the point. We were. I could still feel they were like I could still feel as though the errors were creeping in, even in those games that we were winning against City and Arsenal. I could still see I could still feel as though that these results were going to come. If you see what I mean. Even when we were winning, I'm going. I can still see the cracks starting to appear, and I can see that the next few games it's not gonna look good. We're gonna go on a little bit of a downfall from this. I could still see that even in those games. That's my point.
Okay. Mark says, what needs to change is plain as day. Our defensive players need to be replaced. Mourinho knows this. That's why he's changed them so much.
Yeah, I just think he's still experimenting. Who was that from?
Mark.
Cheers, Mark. Yeah, I still feel as though he's experimenting with the defenders. He doesn't have trust in them, does he?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. He clearly doesn't
have trust in them. I think he had trust with Dyer. I think he thought Dyer was a much better player than he thought he was when he first came in and put him in, because he wanted to sign him for Man United, didn't he, Dyer?
Yeah.
And I think he's slowly starting to realise Dyer's what we know Dyer is.
Clumsy.
Yeah, a bit of a donkey. Yeah,
clumsy. Yeah. Oh, it's been a lot. Oh wow, we're gonna be going for an hour and 20 minutes already.
Blimey. What else have we got here?
Yeah, well, look, we got everyone listen. Here's Azanaut. It says, everyone listen. It's not the defense. Midfield is not good enough, and don't look for the out ball. We have no midfielders that control the play and keep the ball.
Yeah,
that's what Ndombele does now.
That's kind of the point that I was trying to make. Where sometimes there's a difference between defense and defenders.
Okay,
Sim.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Difference between defense and defenders.
Yeah.
What do you mean? What's the difference? One's a collective, one's an individual.
Right. So I think that actually it's often the individuals get the blame for the collective error, and the defense isn't just the defenders, is it?
1 sec. We've got another super chat.
I'll talk while Sim's looking at super chats. Just hold that thought then.
1 sec.
Hang on, I want to finish my point.
John is comparing individual brilliance on the attack and individual mistakes on the back line. One is down to the individual, one is down to the setup. 1-0 Sim. I don't know what.
That's why you wanted to read that out.
No, it's super chat. It's super chat.
All right, we'll come back to that. The point I'm trying to make is, what's the difference between defense and defenders, Sim?
I just told you.
Yeah, one's the individual, one's the collective.
Yeah.
And so the defense, is it just the defenders?
No.
Who is it?
Is the defense just the defenders? It's the whole team.
Right, exactly. So I think a lot of the issues with that get put the blame on just the individual errors, also on some level is also the collective, which also means the ones that pick up the second ball, the midfielders, as Mark pointed out. Sometimes when the cover and the protection's not good enough, sometimes that exposes the central defenders to make those errors. So it's not just the individual errors; it's also the way that you're set up as a team.
I agree with you. I agree with you. My point is, we're setting up with the way we set up in a lot of the games. We don't actually concede too many chances. It's just when we do concede, the goals we do concede end up being from a really bad mistake a lot of the time.
And sometimes that indirectly, that mistake can come from the way that you're set up as a team.
Right, but I agree with you, that can happen. That can happen.
That's the defense. That's what I'm talking about. Even someone like Son is responsible for the defense.
For example, right?
In play, like
when we play, no, I agree with you. No, I see what you're saying. For example, when we're playing against Brighton, we lost 1-0 because Trossard runs off Davis, and then sorry, not Trossard. Gross runs off Davis, outruns him, and then Trossard drops back away from Dyer and allowing a tap in. That is from a structural mistake. That is the structure of the defense which allowed that to happen. When Dyer rolls around on the floor against Timo Werner, that is not structural. That is a complete individual mistake. And what I'm saying is a lot of the mistakes have been more like the Dyer one than the one against Brighton.
No, I agree. But I'm saying it's both. It's structural and individual errors. And I think sometimes this...
Apologies. Yeah, okay, for that, you really are.
What I'm trying to say is sometimes I totally agree with that. I'm just saying that there's also structural issues to the defence when you let in goals, and that doesn't get talked about as much.
No, I agree with you. The defense isn't perfect structurally. It's not perfect. It's hard to fight for perfection. What I'm saying is Mourinho, from a structural point of view, in my opinion, has improved what we have seen under the back end of Poch. But because of individuals, it's undermined individual errors like the one against Dyer, like the Dyer one. It's undermining that. Is my opinion. I don't
think we have improved that much since.
I think we have.
Maybe the last 6 months, but not before.
Yeah, but that's what he had to come into. He didn't come in under Pete Poch. He came in at the last 6 months of Poch. He has to improve on that. You can't improve on what Poch was at the peak because that's where he didn't come in from.
Yeah, I don't think that. The defense isn't.
But factually, it just is. It just factually is. Look at the goals conceded.
What?
How many goals we have conceded? It's just less.
I just think that structure, like, let's talk about structurally. I think structurally we don't look watertight. I don't think we look solid. The fact that we've let in the most, we've conceded. What was it? We've let up the most points from winning positions this season than any other team, I think, or in the top 3 of that. Yeah. You know, that's a structural issue. Yeah, right?
But no,
that's not just individual errors. That's also a structural thing. It's both, is what I'm trying to say. It's a blend of both.
Where is the super chat from Awesome?
What was the one before that?
Here it is. When Poch was coach, it was the same. Now Jose is parking the bus with Kane and it's still the same. So why change if it's still going to be the same? When Poch was the coach, it is the same. Now Jose is parking the bus with Kane and it is still the same. So why change? I don't understand that point. Can you make sense of that?
Why is he parking the bus?
No, you're saying when Poch was the coach, it is the same. Now is the same. Now Jose is parking the bus with Kane, and it's still the same. So why change if it's still going to be the same?
I think he's talking about why not just play more on the front foot rather than just playing the low block, parking the bus, if you're going to get the same results.
Right.
I think that's what he's trying to say.
I think recently Mourinho is trying to change the structure of the team to make us play more on the front foot. That's what I can see. He didn't earlier in the season when we were conceding all those goals, but I think recently he is starting to do that. But what my argument is, I agree with you, but my argument would be most of the time we've seen mistakes. It's not a structural one.
See, I see it as a structural issue a lot of the time. Not always, but I see it's a blend of both.
So you would say the Dyer one against Chelsea, that's not structural.
It's because it's not just those goals. It's just like the way that you're conceding. Not just possession, the way that you're allowing the team to come onto you. You can feel wave after wave. Like against Chelsea in the first 10 minutes, they hadn't really created anything, but I thought, we're not going to win this game. They are going to score here. That's a structural issue, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, it was.
So that's what I'm saying. It's a blend of both. That's what I'm saying. But it's very easy to always scapegoat the individual players and not look at the collective issue, not look at the structural issue when you're looking at a goal. It's easy to do that because every single goal you concede is an individual error. Every single goal. So that's why when you do a replay of the goal...
No, but I'm not blaming, for example, Lanzini's goal in 3-3 against Spurs. I'm not blaming that on an individual. That's just a great goal. That's not what I'm saying. But when you have Sanchez a minute before that head it into his own net, that's an individual error.
But you could, I understand that. But still, at the same time, you could feel as though we were letting them onto us. Do you not think?
Were.
Right. That's the structural.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. That's the structure.
Yeah. So it's the structural issue that's saying, well, we're sitting on the back foot here.
But
we're not closing the ball down well enough. We're going a bit too deep.
Yes, but he set up the team in a way for us to deal with that. from a structural point of view for us. So if we are under pressure and we are conceding a lot of possession, and the other team are starting to dominate, he set us in a way for us to cope with that.
Take Mourinho out. Take Mourinho out for the moment. I'm just saying that structurally the team was collapsing before the individual mistake. Agreed?
Against West Ham?
Yeah. That's my point. Basically.
Yes and no. Yes and no. I think we were conceding. We were offering the opposition a bit too much encouragement. However, we weren't.
You could see our arseholes were falling out
a bit. Yeah.
Right. That was before the individual error.
Yeah.
That's the structural.
Okay. I can understand that. I can understand.
So
that.
I agree with you. I'm just saying it's a blend of both. It's a blend of the individual errors, but also the structural, also the way that you're playing, also the way that you're collapsing, also the way when you're watching, you're going, they're going to score here. I can feel it. It's wave after wave, you know, even if they don't have the shot on target, even if they're not creating chances, you can feel it coming.
No, but I agree with you. But I think every team in the league goes through stages like that in every game. Every game, you're not going to be dominating the game for 90 minutes, except for maybe if you're Man City. But even then, I remember I watched them against Brighton, and for the last 10 minutes, they were completely under the cosh. They allowed Brighton a lot of possession, and Brighton were pumping balls in their box. But the difference is they didn't make the mistake, and we do.
Yeah, there's ways that you can allow. There's a difference between
wave after
here's the difference. There's a way that you can either soak up pressure and create a low block, but be very defensive and put the opposition into cul-de-sacs. Even Fulham did that to Liverpool. That Liverpool never really looked like scoring, you know, when they played them at Fulham's ground. I don't know if you watched that game.
I did.
Yeah. So there is a way of doing it, right?
Yeah, but if that was Spurs, you would say, "Oh, Fulham had all that possession and they had domination."
There's two different ways. There's one where you sit quite in a low block and you soak up pressure and you have counter-attacking outlets to take the pressure off. There's another one where you all drop deep, your arseholes fall out, and it's like last-ditch defending. We've seen that for years from Spurs, haven't we? That's two different things. One is defending resolutely in a low block, but solid and being watertight. The other one is last ditch, desperate, wave after wave, and it's sort of like hacking balls away. That's the difference, right? And
yeah, but
structurally,
that's always
against West Ham, you could see that goal was coming way before that Sanchez put it into his own net. You could feel that coming structurally. We didn't look watertight.
I think they were having more possession in our box, and they were coming forward more, and they were taking more risks.
They looked a
more
better
players
team
forward. Yeah, but when we're 3-0 up, you should be able to shut up shop and drop back and not be and not
we weren't
shutting
up shop. That's the thing. We weren't shutting up shop. That's my point. It's a structural issue there. It's not just the individual errors.
We weren't shutting up shop, but we were. But that's down to the players.
We weren't shutting up shop. We just let in 3 goals.
Yeah, but that wasn't down to the goals. If you analyze the goals, I'm not like you can't. I don't know how you can blame Mourinho for those goals.
No, I said take Mourinho out of it.
Yeah,
I'm saying structurally we collapsed in that game, irrespective of the individual errors.
Yeah, but you have to be able to cope with those moments in games.
Exactly. Structurally, you have to cope with it.
Yeah, and that means
you have to set up the team to defend it.
Everyone defending for the team.
That's why I said, what's the difference between defense and defenders? It was the way that we defended as a whole unit that was poor in that game, and that's the reason why the individual errors got exposed. So it's a blend of both, the individual and the collective.
No, it is. But I would argue a lot of the times this season when we've had games in the palm of our hand to win, and we've dropped points. And we've had a lot of chances and we haven't put them to bed, and we've only got the 1-0 lead. And then for the last 20 minutes, we're under the cosh and our arseholes fall out. But what ultimately usually happens is it's not a structural issue, because
it is.
No, if it was a structural issue, you would see a lot more chances for the opposition. Against Fulham, we literally conceded one chance. It's not just about
chances. It's about
it is about chances.
You can see the confidence drained out the team. You can see the panic set in amongst the players. That's not individual errors, is it? When you can see that in the players, in the commentators are saying Spurs look really nervy here, and they look a little bit like all lost at sea. That's a structural issue. Mourinho, and if we are going to bring Mourinho back into it, he still has to address that, and he still has to create a system whereby you can hold on to a lead and you still look strong defensively, and you have counter-attacking outlets, not just like hope for the best when you're 1-0 up and like hope you're going to hold on. Because clearly, if you just look statistically this season at the results, we haven't been able to do it. So you can just look at, it's no coincidence that we've given up the most points from winning positions this season. That's not a coincidence.
Yeah.
Right. Well, if it happens once or twice, you go, okay, I'll let that go. If it happens continually, you have to look for patterns. That is a continual pattern that you have to address. And I just don't think you can just say that's because of Dyer's mistakes or Sanchez's mistakes. I think you have to look at the whole team, the way they set up.
It's not just. I agree. It's not only. I agree. It's a blend.
Even little things like this, right? I think Harry Kane is actually a really good centre back. He's proven that he's actually really good as in defensive. He's like an all-action hero, isn't he? When he's dropped back in defence. But the issue is when you stick when Harry comes back and goes into his own area, and then let's say a Mora or a Lamela or a Bergwijn also comes back to defend, right? You lose that second ball. You lose the counter-attacking outlets. You lose your shape structurally. Do you see that?
I see what you mean. Ray Kilk says Liverpool is where is that super chat? Can I show it? Well, let me show it. Here it is. Liverpool is still playing with the same structure, but the difference is their quality of defenders are injured. Tottenham need to invest in better defenders.
Who would you get? Who do you think? I mean, you watch a lot of European football. Who do you think? Who's out there that you think's quality?
I like Milenkovic from Fiorentina. I think he's a good big centre back who'd improve the defence. I like Skriniar, obviously, but I thought we should have definitely. He was a realistic option. We should have got him.
Is that still possible or not?
He's now the reason why he was so gettable was because he was out of favour with Inter Milan, and now he's back in favour, so it's going to be a lot harder to get him. Sven Botman, I like the look of. Awesome All says, if you were the coach, how would you play without defence? No investment, no cup. Thoughts? How would you play? You can't play without defence.
Without a defence or with a defence?
He said, if you were the coach, how would you play without defence?
He's saying, like, he's talking about, he doesn't think that we have a defence, as in the quality is not good enough. So what would you do with the players we've got? I think he's trying to say. Yeah,
it's tough. I think you just have to try and negate the fact that they're going to concede errors at the moment.
I mean, on paper, they're meant to be good defenders, aren't they?
Yeah, they're meant to be, but they keep making mistakes.
I mean, it's not like he's working with the worst.
No. But he keeps getting let down. I feel like the defenders are undermining the way we play, and they're undermining the tactics, and by these individual mistakes. And you hear Rio Ferdinand talking after the game, and he was saying, like, he feels for Mourinho because he said there's only the manager can only do so much, and when these defenders are costing him with these mistakes, there's only so much he can do. That's what Rio Ferdinand was saying. And this is coming from a centre-back who plays, used to be top of his game in the Premier League.
Who does everyone else think?
Is it individual responsibility at the end of the day?
Yeah, I think it's both. It's individual. It's the individual. It's the collective. It's the players, and it's the manager. I think you've got to take in all of it together. You can't just. I just don't think you can just pinpoint it on one thing and just say it's the individual players. And Mourinho's completely hands off.
He's not hands. Yeah, I think it's not blameless.
It's the whole package, right? It's the whole package. You know, if do you want me to go back to my McDonald's?
No, it's fine.
No, but it's like everyone's responsible. It's a team effort, right? Everyone is culpable for in defeat.
But moving forward, okay, we'll end the show with we're moving forward until the end of the season.
What can change?
We're now 3 wins and 11. We're still, as we said at the beginning of the stream, which is now an hour and 40 minutes ago.
Yeah,
we
can talk for ages.
Yeah, we can. We're still in everything, right?
Yeah.
What do you think Mourinho can do? Or do you think he can turn this around?
I'm going to say a couple of things that I really like that Mourinho's done. Okay. All right, because I know it sounds as though I'm slating Mourinho. I'm not. I'm just saying that.
And also, by the way, let me just quickly say we've played City twice in the league as well. We've played Liverpool twice. And we've played Chelsea twice. So going forward, we've got a lot of the hard games out of the way compared to a lot of the other rivals. Anyway, keep going.
I actually think that the issue that I had with Mourinho was that we only had a plan A and we didn't have a plan B. So if Kane gets injured, it's a little bit like, what do we do now? You know, I've had that issue with Mourinho, but against Everton, I know he conceded 4 in 90 minutes, right? But you have to say that the way we started that game for the first half an hour was a breath of fresh air. It was a breath of fresh air. And what I like is that is a good plan B, isn't it? I actually think that having we were set up, we were off the ball, we were kind of set up in a 4-4-2, and I think we had Son and Mora, and what they were doing, and with Bergwijn coming in as well and Lamela, it was almost like going back to the Poch days of like really hounding and like hunting in packs. And I really like that as a plan B, being able to, if you don't play Kane, you can actually have people that really fast at closing the ball down. And I thought that worked really well for us. And we smothered Everton in that first half an hour. And yes, like things didn't go well. I thought we're a little bit unlucky, but I would say that it's okay. You can experiment with that. You can take the pressure off Kane a little bit, and you can play. You can play a system like that where you're playing like effectively 4 forwards, where you're all hounding down the ball, like Mora, Lamela, Bergwijn, Son. I think that works, and I think he can experiment with that a little bit more and recreate a little bit of what we showed against Everton, because that really showed a lot of spiritedness, didn't it?
You did.
A lot of energy. It was like a lung-busting effort. I thought it was really good, and mix that in with the kind of the low block style with Kane as the quarterback. You know what I mean? I think when we put too much pressure on that being our only plan, then we put too much pressure on Kane and Son. If they get burnt out or one of them's not quite at it, I think the whole team seems to lose a little bit of oomph, doesn't it? A bit of mojo. You can see it. The whole mojo gets drained out of the team. So I think he could actually dovetail with playing that plan B we showed against Everton. You know, in the attack. That's what I would say for going forward. I'd say he should be.
Do you think the getting Reguilon back, getting Lo Celso back, it could and also getting Dele and Bale more involved in the latter part of the season, could that provide a positive impact, or are you not hopeful on that?
I'm not holding much hope for Dele Alli or Bale, to be honest with you. But you know, I've thought that since day one.
Yeah.
But I would say Reguilon's going to make a big impact when he comes back, and
also Lo Celso?
And Lo Celso, if he can stay fit and get a run of games together, I think he can be good. We've got a good midfield if we get all our first team players back injury free. You know that we actually start to look good. But also with Reguilon, I actually noticed that he was brilliant at the beginning of the season, but then I started to notice Mourinho at the sideline stopping him from overlapping and telling him to stay back. I noticed that, and we actually noticed he went a little bit off. He was a little bit off colour, wasn't he? Reguilon, for a few weeks, and then he started to look good when he started to overlap again and really go at the fullbacks. And if he gives Reguilon license to go forward and overlap, we can really hurt teams down the flanks. We can really get at teams. But if we start to like keep things a little bit too deep, play a little bit too deep, I can see things remaining a little bit stale at the moment. So I'm hoping that we unleash some of these players and we give them license to go forward and express themselves. And then I think we could finish off the season well. We could actually, I know we're on a little bit of a trough at the moment, but I can potentially see us going on a little bit of an upward tick as well.
And also because it's so close, like although you can fall down very quickly, you can also go up very quickly.
And to credit to Mourinho, after the Chelsea game, I actually thought I thought the wheels are falling off.
Me too.
I really did. And I know it's only West Brom, but I know it's West Brom, but I was heartened by the spirit of the team and the way he got into their heads.
But the big change was moving Ndombele deeper in that one.
Yeah,
and I think having that quality in the centre is vital.
So what do you see?
Vital.
Okay, so what do you see? How do you see the season going? And like,
for me,
what little tweaks do you think need to be made?
I think getting when Lo Celso's fit, or even when Lo Celso's not fit, keeping Ndombele for me next to Højbjerg and that double pivot is crucial for me. Absolutely vital.
Keeping Ndombele and Lo Celso together.
No, Højbjerg.
Oh, sorry.
Keeping them together in that double pivot and taking him out of that number 10 role, because when we have Ndombele there, we usually have Sissoko or Winks there, and especially when they're not confident, they're not looking for the ball, and it forces us to go long a lot more, and it forces us to not have control, not play through the midfield basically, and it cuts off a lot of opportunities for us. So I think since he started Ndombele in the double pivot, I think we've looked a lot better on the ball. He has to persist with that, in my opinion. Getting Reguilon back, giving Davis some good rest will definitely provide a better outlet on the left hand side. Getting Aurier as well back up right back will give us threats on the flanks. And then I can see us having a much more positive end to the season, in my opinion. I think at the moment it kind of looks like whatever centre back pairing, it doesn't really make a difference at the moment. I would like to see Toby start more regularly. I think I would like for me to be Toby +1, whoever it is. That's because I think he makes the least mistakes.
Would you put Rodin in? Would you kind of put faith in him?
He's also making mistakes. But that's because he's just inexperienced, I feel. I would like, look, I think in terms of physicality, we need someone who's as competent in the air as he is. He's a big lad, 6'4". He doesn't lose many headers. So I would like to see him getting more of a run as he has. But at the moment, whenever we do put him in, he does seem to be making a lot of mistakes. So I can see the problems there. But I want to see Ndombele there. I want to see us integrate Bale more into the team, as I know he hasn't shown much, but I want to see him integrated a bit more. And I think once Lo Celso gets fit, I think a midfield of Højbjerg and Ndombele in the pivot with Lo Celso forward could provide a lot more creativity and a lot more control in possession than we've been showing recently. So I do feel like there's things that we could definitely do to look forward.
What are we going to do about Kane and Son? Because I feel like we put so much pressure on them this season. I can start to see. I actually said a week before Kane got the injury, I actually said to you and Ben, I said, I can see he's about to have a big injury. Luckily, it wasn't too big an injury, but I can normally see I can normally tell when Kane's about to have an injury. And I can see that he's sort of on the edge a little bit at the moment, isn't he?
Yeah.
With his sort of fitness and his sharpness. So,
I think he looked pretty sharp actually when he's come back against West Brom, and he came on scored against Everton as well.
Yeah,
I think he's actually looking okay. I know against Man City he was very isolated.
I think he's still trying to find his feet a little bit. But but we're putting so much pressure on him. What would we do if Kane and Son, let's say, get injured? Because they've been
Kane and Son get injured.
Because it's quite possible Son can pick up an injury. I mean, he was so jaded in the last game. I can actually see that he could even have an injury soon if we're not careful.
I would rest them, I think, in the first leg against Wolfsberger and see how we do. And if it's really going wrong, obviously bring them on. But I think I'll rest them from the start and then have them fresh for the West Ham game on the weekend. I think we need to start
I agree.
using them a bit sparingly. But there are things.
Would you use Vinicius more or not? Or do you just don't think he's mustard enough?
I want to, but for me, he seemed... When he's played up front by himself, I think maybe if he played with Kane, it might be okay. But when he's played up front by himself, he doesn't have the quality to lead the line, I feel. That's what I feel. I feel he's quite good physically in terms of he can win flick-ons and stuff. He can battle with centre-backs. And he's not a bad poacher as well. But when he's asked to use his technical ability to hold the ball up when someone's coming through the back of him and be strong enough to hold it up and have a good first touch when he's under pressure, haven't seen that. Haven't seen that. That's what Mourinho requires. I know he does. A lot of the times he's winning flick-ons and they're not going to anyone and he's not able to hold the ball up. And that's what Mourinho probably is frustrated about with Vinicius. But I feel like maybe given some time, he can still fulfill that role.
I hope so, because I think if he can play Vinicius a little bit more and he can sort of develop that into his game, then I think that could take the pressure off Kane a little bit. And then we have a plan C, if you like, even,
Yeah. All right. I think we've been going on for
a long one, juicy one.
Yeah, we're going on for long enough. But
so yeah,
what is going wrong?
What's going on?
I don't know.
Should we talk about that?
What's going wrong? We did. Yeah, I mean, a lot's going on. But
should we sum that up? Let's quickly sum that up. I mean,
I think obviously the board.
I think the board. I personally think Mourinho does have to come into some amount of criticism, and I think a lot of fans are completely making him exempt from criticism. I think he definitely has to take responsibility, even in the individual performances. I think like I said with the manager at the McDonald's and with the staff.
Yeah, but I also think there's a lot of things happening that are out of his control, and I think I would argue a lot of the times we have set ourselves up to win games, and it's not his fault we haven't won the game. I would say a lot of the time that's happened, and that's what I would argue as well with Jose. But I think things can still turn around, and we can still start getting those wins again. I would say the circumstance of the season, the fact that we're playing so many games. We had Europa League. Remember the beginning of the season, we had like 4 games in a week, and something.
You can't blame the fixture pile up, though. I don't think, because that
not
before
completely.
The beginning of the season.
Oh yeah, but so what? You can know it, but doesn't mean you have the
got
to deal with it.
For that, I think. And it's a bit like Ty saying it was raining. You know what I mean? It's like you can't blame the fixture.
But there are teams who don't have European football and a lot fresher than us a lot of the time.
We went into this season knowing that we'd be competing in all competitions until quite late, right?
Yeah, but there's only so many players you can have a squad.
So you've got to be mentally prepared for that. I don't think you can use that personally as an excuse.
No, look, everyone has the same problems. You can't use an excuse. It's just, I think when you have the perception of how we're doing, I think you've got to take it in the context of the season that we're in.
And also
basically.
the teams that we've been playing for Europa have almost been a completely different 11 anyway.
Not always. A lot of the times he's played Højbjerg and he's played Kane and Son.
Yeah, maybe one or two thrown in, but generally it's a different 11, isn't it?
A lot of it, yeah, it is.
So,
but I think a lot of the time, but a lot of the time it's not as well. I think, but I just think the context of the season warps people's perceptions of how well or badly that we're doing. Basically, I would say, although we are in 8th, so obviously, but you got to take that into context as well. And compared to everyone else, agreed. But because the league is so tight, 1 week we could be 8th, 1 week we could be 5th, and the next, it's very, very close. So judging it, you can say if you're judging it right now and this week, it's awful. Okay, but if you're judging it a few weeks ago, then it's good, and you're judging it next week, it could be bad.
What would be considered a failure this season?
By the end of the season,
but
top 4, no trophy, that's a failure.
Either or both. Like, do you need both?
It depends. It depends. If we get the Carabao Cup and finish 10th, that's a failure.
Right.
If we finish 5th, like a point outside top 4, and get the Carabao Cup, and we look like we were unlucky not to finish top 4 or something, then he might buy another season. If we finish 6th and win Europa League, that's acceptable.
If we finish 5th and don't win a trophy,
then in context, I would say it's a failure.
And what do you think? How will Levy see that?
I think he would probably give him another season.
I think he will as well.
Probably as well. But then if say we get battered in the League Cup final and we were lucky to finish 5th, then his position's got to be considered. But say we lose the cup final on penalties and we finish
let's say
we finish 5th on goal difference, then you got to be.
So if we finish 6th and we get battered in the League Cup final, what's going to happen to Mourinho?
His position's got to be looked at.
Yeah, and what do you think will happen? I still think he'll give him another season.
I think
he'll give him
it depends. It depends on context. If we're looking awful in the league, if we're looking terrible, and we finish 6th because we got a few 1-0 wins here and there and we got lucky, then he might consider it. But it's going
to cost us a fortune as well, isn't it?
Yeah, because he's got another 2 years left on his contract after this.
And we're still playing Potchoff as well.
But for me, look, if a 10 out of 10 season is a trophy in top 4. Sorry, I would say 2 trophies in top 4 is a 10 out of 10. 9 out of 10 is 1 trophy in top 4. 8 out of 10 is top 4. 7 out of 10 is trophy and no top 4. 6 out of 10 is probably Carabao Cup.
What?
No, sorry. No. 7 out of 10 is probably like Europa League and no top 4. 6 out of 10 is probably Carabao Cup and like 5th.
Yeah.
5 out of 10 is probably Carabao Cup and lower than 5th.
Yeah, go on.
4 out of 10 is no Carabao Cup and lower than 5th.
Yeah, okay.
3 out of 10.
I like this. You've properly broken it all down.
3 out of 10 is probably is probably 6th and lower, no Carabao Cup. No, did I say was that 4?
That was 4, wasn't it?
So 7th and lower is 3 out of 10 and no Carabao Cup. 2 out of 10, 8th and lower. 1 out of 10 is 10th and lower.
Yeah, okay.
And then 0 out of 10 is bottom half.
And what do you think? And what do you think we're going to do out of 10?
What did I say?
I don't want to say. Yeah, try and remember that if you can. Let's just say we're hopeful for what's going to happen.
I reckon we're going to get. I reckon. Oh, wow, what are we going to do? I reckon we'll win the Carabao. We'll finish 5th, and we'll get to. Are we not going to get champions? We're going to have no. I want us to play Champions League. Okay,
so
from where we are at the moment.
So you reckon we're going to beat Man City?
What are we actually going to do? What I'm hoping for?
No, what we're going to do?
What we're actually going to do? What we're actually going to do is, I reckon we'll win the Carabao, and I reckon we'll finish 5th, and we'll get to the semis of the Europa.
That's almost the same as what I think,
and that's like a 6 out of 10.
I think we're going to, unfortunately, lose to Man City in the League Cup final. I think we're going to finish 5th or 6th. And I think we'll probably go to about the quarters.
Quarters of Europa.
Or semis. Yeah, quarters or semis in the Europa.
Do you think I have those out of 10s pretty spot?
Yeah, that was a nice breakdown.
That's what I would say. That's what I would say for my out of 10s. I obviously if we get a 6 out of 10, I would consider moving, would consider getting a fresh approach. I think 7 and more, I'll give him another season.
All right, yeah, I agree with that. I think he deserves it as well. But I would also like to see what Mourinho could do if he did get the players he wanted in.
Ben says 6th, Carabao Cup and Europa. That's exactly what he did with Man United. Oh, Ben, yeah, he's in the
He
comments.
said what? He said
he said 6th Carabao Cup win and Europa win.
Cool. I'll definitely take that. I'll snap your hand off, mate.
That was a
snap your hand off for that.
That's an 8 out of 10, I think.
Oh,
two trophies and a 6th place. I think that's 8 out of 10.
I'll take that.
8 out of 10, I think. Alfred Appia says good breakdown.
Yeah.
All right.
That's what's great about Sim. He can just break that these things
very
down.
Left brain.
Yeah, very left brain in a great way.
I can break it down.
Just break
like
things
that.
down like into layers.
I'm very good with rating things out of 10. I'm very good at that.
Excellent. Good stuff,
but
mate.
I'm hopeful for the last part of the season. I think there's a lot to fight for. I think a lot can still change.
It can.
I think perceptions are very volatile when you're taking it week by week like this. And and looking at it right now can look terrible when a few weeks later things can change very, very quickly. So I'm still hopeful.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's hope we can have a good end to the season. Let's hope we can address a lot of the issues, structural and individual. And let's hope. Anyway, guys, it's been a great 2-hour stream. I appreciate all your comments. I appreciate all the super chats, all your support. I hope everyone. Let me just pop that out.
I hope everyone.
I hope everyone enjoyed that chat and it didn't drone on for too long.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it personally. I hope everyone else did. But if you enjoyed that, like and subscribe and let us know your thoughts. And as always, I won't wait for John for joining us. I'll say that quickly.
Thank you very much.
I'll say
cheers, mate.
joining
Thanks
us
for having me
for 2 hours. Like and subscribe and comment below. And as always, come on you Spurs.